it's racing day, so light out here, I can't hear a thing. Man, the fans are going wild. And these drivers came to rock, and no place else but Fox knows how to do it NASCAR style.
Boogity, boogity, boogity! Let's go racing, boys!
Hey, now, here we go, race day. Don't you be going slow. Keep that pedal down on the floor. Push it till the crowd can't take no more. Hey, since the flag came down, be here to the last lap around. Worked all week, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways. Hey, since the flag came down, be here to the last lap around. Worked all week, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways.
It's a visual we'll never forget. Spectacular yet stunning. We go from the beaches in Daytona to the Arizona desert. The scenery may have changed, but the challenge remains the same for the best drivers in the world. NASCAR on Fox welcomes you to Phoenix International Raceway. And we're getting ready to go 312 miles with Matt Kenseth, the Daytona 500 winner, trying to start the season 2-0. Dale Earnhardt Jr. after a second-place finish, a two-time winner here. Kasey Kahne won the last time we raced on this newly reworked track. And Carl Edwards hoping to show he's the most fit for the Fresh Fit Subway 500. Blue skies, temperature in the 80s. A great day for racing, and we're getting ready for the start of the Subway Fresh Fit 500, and this is where America gathers every weekend for NASCAR. Hi, I'm Chris Myers, and it's good to be with you for the second race of the season. Alongside in the Hollywood Hotel, Michael Waltrip, two-time Daytona 500 champ, and of course our NASCAR Hall of Famer, Darrell Waltrip.
Man, it's good to have you back, Chris. We missed you. Glad you're here with us, buddy.
It's good to be back, and thanks to NASCAR, the Fox family, all the fans who sent support. My family deeply indebted. Difficult to talk about, but we get back to, you know, the here and now and the challenge ahead. And I know drivers themselves, after what we all witnessed last weekend, are seeking some sense of normalcy. Will they find it here in Phoenix today?
Well, I think so. This track's a little small. It's a mile track. You know, speeds are a little lower. But the reconfiguration has really thrown some of these teams a real curveball, and they're having to deal with that and the weather. It's pretty hot today.
Yeah, it's hot, and that means the track's going to be slick. I know a lot of these drivers are really nervous about the start of this race, especially the guys on the outside line. Not a lot of grip up there, so watch for an exciting start.
We'll keep an eye on which drivers handle it the best, but let's check the NASCAR headlines. And you know about Matt Kenseth, who had a busy week after his Daytona 500 overtime. He visited the Dallas Mavericks, the NBA champs in Dallas. Then he went to San Francisco and then left his permanent imprint on Daytona. Meanwhile, Jimmie Johnson's crew chief, Chad Canal, suspended 6 races, fined $100,000. The team docks 25 driver and owner points. They are appealing. More on that in a moment. Roger Penske returning to Ford next season after 10 years at Dodge. And Mark Martin at age 53 on the pole for our race today. He's won twice in Phoenix before, and he is part of Michael Waltrip Racing. But let's get back to Jimmie Johnson, 5-time champ, and these penalties, improper usage of the car. It is being appealed, but let's talk about the punishment. It seems severe. What do you think?
Well, you know, there's been a foul called, okay? This is like a personal foul. They found something wrong with the car. Now it's just like in any other sport. They go over, they're reviewing it. It'll go before a review board, an appeal board. Personally, I think it's a little harsh. We'll see what the appeal board has to say.
You have a choice to appeal or not. You can choose not to appeal, but I like this appeal. It gets them a chance to get a couple races under their belt before they face the decision of whether they're going to be suspended or not.
We should hear in 2 to 3 weeks between the Las Vegas and Bristol race, and the penalties could be reduced. A short week for drivers, finishing Tuesday morning on the East Coast and then rushing out west to be here. NASCAR racing in Phoenix since the 80s. In fact, the actor Steve McQueen once won a sports car race at this place, but this place best known for snapping streaks.
Wins. And how many races have it been since his last win?
0 for 66, 1 for 67. Jeff Gordon wins at Phoenix.
He's got the momentum right there.
He will win.
That's the good news. The bad news for current streaks, non-winning, Martin Truex, 168 races. Dale Earnhardt Jr., 130. Jeff Burton, 114. Does this track, why does it lend itself to guys snapping streaks?
I know we're going to Vegas next week, and that's a gambling city for sure, but this racetrack kind of lends itself to that kind of strategy. We've seen it over and over again, what to do in the pits. Track position, it's a short race. Things happen quickly. Make a right call in pits, get up front, got a shot.
A couple of drivers with a lot of momentum leaving Daytona. Dale Jr. second place finish. Martin Truex Jr. led at the halfway point. So those guys come into Phoenix with a lot of confidence. They could be the two that bust a streak, one of the two that bust a streak here.
And Jeff Burton also on a bit of a roll as well. And we're rolling forward here on our NASCAR and Fox pre-race show. Here's what's around the turn. Brad Keselowski set the Twitter sphere on fire, posting pictures and chatting during the race, during the delay, and we'll catch up with NASCAR's newest trendsetter here in just a few moments. And when the smoke settled, it was Matt Kenseth, his second Daytona 500 title. We'll talk live with the driver of the 17 Ford, and the Waltrip brothers are back on the track together. That's double trouble plus gas and go. The 2012 NASCAR season started out with a bang.
Crazy way to get it all started.
The best drivers in the world descended on Daytona, showcasing their skills during a remarkable speed week.
Oh my goodness!
That was a badass day right there.
But when Sunday came, Mother Nature decided to show her face, and for the first time ever, the Daytona 500 was postponed.
This 54th running of the 500 is bound to be NASCAR's biggest night ever.
And as usual, the great American race was explosive.
You hit and you see all those flames. For me, in my mind, I ain't getting burned, so I'm getting out.
After 36 hours, and the tweet heard round the world.
Kenseth leads to turn one, final lap.
It came down to two former 500 winners. The sport's most popular driver was poised and ready to make his move.
Here comes Junior to the outside. Side by side with Kenseth. He runs out of time. Matt Kenseth wins the Daytona 500.
We'll be talking about in a moment, but there's Juan Pablo Montoya who said his feet are still sore. He'll be starting fifth today, but he said he's lucky that he's okay. And the driver of the jet dryer, Dwayne Barnes, not here. He'll work Talladega. He's fine. An employee of the Michigan International Speedway.
Yeah, you know, safety is a moving target. Every time we think we got our arms around everything that could possibly happen inside those four walls of the racetrack, something that we've never seen before takes place. That's why we always say put safer barriers where we've never had them before. And certainly Monday night we saw something we'd never seen before.
Yeah, but clearly that was not Juan Pablo Montoya's fault. His car broke. You saw the sparks, and that sent him sliding out of control.
Well, but NASCAR, we always learn. Every time something bad happens, every time some accident takes place that we didn't expect or never could foresee, we learn from it. Now the safety workers in the truck, they'll be wearing helmets and uniforms, and NASCAR is going to they're going to look at the design of the jet blower. So we will take that bad experience and we'll learn some good things from it.
And add another safety vehicle on the track with flashing lights for awareness. It was addressed in the drivers' meeting. People have been talking about it on Twitter. And around the world, Twitter has nearly 500 million users, and a lot of them tweet about NASCAR and their favorite driver. During our broadcast, we run a ticker on the bottom of the screen that tracks what the drivers are saying on Twitter. And Brad Keselowski began the Daytona 500 with 65,000 followers. Remember, he tweeted during the race in primetime on Fox. He ended the night with 200,000. I would say more, but I'm limited to 140 characters, and I'm sitting next to two of them.
Us.
So how did I gain over 130,000 followers on Twitter in just a couple hours? It starts by tweeting stuff that no one's seen before. Like this first ever tweet from inside a car. Pretty cool, huh? But don't worry, the car was parked. I don't tweet and drive, and you shouldn't either. Some of the drivers thought I was crazy, like Jeff Burton. It never hurts to poke fun at Matt Yoakum. He's such an easy target. My main rule on Twitter is to put something out there that I would want to read myself. Thanks to Monday night, I now have a lot more fans to interact with. Now, if you really want to get attention, try retweeting this. That's Dick Berggren sending the first ever tweet.
Alexander Graham Bell was on the other end.
I twittered the other day to Keselowski. I said, you tweet during a race. How about we play Words with Friends during practice? You want to do that?
It's great communication.
I love it because the fans, they give you so much input. They critique it. They critique your tie, how you look, how you act, what you say, how to set up a car, how to do TV. It's so helpful. I'm not complaining one bit. Keep doing it. It's helpful.
and NASCAR, almost at more than any other sport, the involvement. And you also can select your team for today's race. Get in touch with the action with Fox Fantasy Racing, presented by Farmers Insurance. Pick your team of 5 drivers before the green flag drops. Sign up today at foxsports.com/fantasy. A lot more to come as we continue live from Phoenix. We'll talk with Matt Kenseth, trying to start out 2-0 for the first time since 2009. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. NASCAR on Fox pre-race show is sponsored by Subway. Subway broke the 200-calorie breakfast barrier with egg white morning melts. Subway. Eat fresh. Conditioning could be a factor. It'll be hotter than it's been all weekend here for the drivers in Phoenix. Tony Stewart, the Sprint Cup champ, led the most laps the last time we raced here in the fall, but didn't win that race, starting on the front row with Mark Martin. From one of NASCAR's biggest tracks at Daytona, a major shift here at Phoenix International Raceway. Jeff Hamlin, our professor at the University of Farmers, now has his class in session.
Phoenix, let's call it what it really is. It's a short track, 1 mile in length. Hey, it's no Daytona. No restrictor plates, no short spoilers, no small radiators. Everything's big. We're back to the big spoiler, and one other thing, big brakes. You got to have big brakes to be able to win here. You've got to take care of the driver inside the cockpit. He can adjust the balance on those. Remember, rotor temperatures can get excessive, almost 1,200 degrees if you don't do it right. So today, the guy who can manage his brakes, take care of everything, in the end, he'll go to victory lane.
Which drivers are the best with their brakes as we watch them today?
I like Tony Stewart. I mean, he usually saves a little bit of fuel for you. He can also, that means you're also good on your equipment. Darrell, when you raced, you always had good brakes at the end of the race. How'd you do it?
Well, my smart crew chief back in the day, Suitcase Jay Kelder, told me, if you don't want to have trouble with your brakes, keep your big foot off of them. And that's the whole thing. Those brakes are huge. They generate a ton of heat. You can overuse them. You got to feel that as a driver. You got to know when that pedal's getting a little soft and get off the brakes. Let them cool.
We'll be watching the in-car camera, and you'll keep an eye on that throughout today. Well, if you were to Google the word consistently, you're likely to see Matt Kenseth come up on your computer. Kenseth, the former champion, who's been in the chase 7 out of the 8 years it's been run. He's actually led the last 9 races that he's been in, and that includes, of course, Monday night's thrilling Daytona 500. Matt's joining us live from down on the track, ready to go here in Phoenix. And Matt, congratulations, 2-time winner of the Daytona 500. That's the good news now as you try to go 2-0 again like you did back in 2009. I know that you had to go to a backup car after your last practice. What effect does that have on you for today's race?
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us this weekend for sure. Thanks to me. So yeah, wrecked that car right in the beginning of the second practice and took most of that time to get our backup ready. So don't have a lot of laps on the car. I didn't get a good lap at all yesterday qualifying. So it's an uphill battle, but we have 312 miles to try to work our way toward the front. I got I think the best pit crew and team in the business standing right here behind me, ready to go to work. So looking forward to getting it started and hopefully be able to do better than the last couple days.
Hey, Matt, we meet again. It's DW. You know, at Talladega, there was a big controversy about team orders. Were there any team orders at the end of the race at Daytona last Monday night?
No, not at all. If there were, I wouldn't know anyway because I couldn't get my radio to work. But no, not at all. I mean, really, you know, Greg and I worked so good together for several reasons. Not just because we're teammates and friends, but our cars ran extremely fast together. And you know, whether you're the lead car or the second car, you want to be with somebody that your car goes fast with. So on all those restarts, I'd work my way up to the top to give him a tow, and that would get him going. And then he would give me a push, and we get single file. And you know, both of us were knew when it came down that last lap, it was going to be every man for themselves. And I knew he was going to do all he could to try to win the Daytona 500.
And Matt, some of the most dramatic video was your car on pit road, all the water running out of it. All we heard is you can't get your car hot. You got yours really hot. How'd you overcome that?
Yeah, it was really odd. We really never got it very hot at that valve that they pass out. Ours was bad. It was only a 15-pounder instead of a 28-pounder like it was supposed to be, and it would only let me get to water like 210 degrees or so before it would just push it all out. So we came back and refilled it with water, and thankfully we never really got behind anybody and had to push a lot the rest of the night, and kept enough water in it to get to the finish.
All right, Matt, thanks for your time. Good luck. All right, we'll be watching today closely.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Hey, and I'm glad you're back there, Chris. We're all thinking about you.
Thank you. Appreciate all the support. And he mentioned 312 miles. That's 500 kilometers. I know that was throwing you off, right? The Subway Fresh at 500. We'll figure it out. And the drivers, as they greet the fans before they jump in the cars, and then we'll look at Michael and Darrell. Double trouble. That's trouble right there. Bounce back performance today. You could choose which of the top 4 qualifiers will finish best in today's race. Text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&TFastestDriver.com to play. You'll have a chance to win 4 Gs. And every week you'll have a chance to make your selection. AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network. Rethink possible. Well, for some, progressive banking means you get a free toaster when you open a checking account. But for Darrell and Michael, progressive banking is what's been done here at this track. And when the Waltrips make a road trip, that's double trouble.
You know, one of the trouble spots on this racetrack is right here in the dog leg. Last year you couldn't pass. This was all grass, but they paved it when they redid the track. When the guys come off turn 2, there's traffic. They want to go down on the apron and make a pass. That's going to cause trouble. My trouble spot is right here in the dog leg. Where's yours, Michael?
My trouble spot is right here, DW, as the cars enter turn 3. Look how wide it is back there where you are. Cars off the track, I get it. But they got to get back on the track, and there's going to be a difference in speed. And they got to funnel down into this tight turn 3. Oh, by the way, they're running 170 miles an hour as well. Your trouble is going to lead to trouble for me. That's double trouble.
You know what? I think it looks weird. I think it's more trouble than it's worth.
You know, when you go off the track and back on, you hate taking a chance in damaging your car, so I don't like it either. I'd say my guys stay on the track.
Drivers don't want to look weird. You guys made it back fast, and you dressed up real good. So let's go to Gas and Go, where we ask questions, and you provide the answers, and they have not seen these. You're on the clock. This is for both of you, but I'll start with you, Darrell. What could Greg Biffle have done to make the pass on Matt Kenseth and win the Daytona 500? What could he have done?
Greg was, I would not want to be in Greg Biffle's position. If he pulls out and doesn't make the pass and Dale Jr. passes he and Matt both, boy, that probably cost him his job. So I think he did all he could do. He stayed right there. He made a little bit of an effort, but that was all he could do.
I would have backed up more to just give it a whirl. Backed up to Junior more. Junior gets to push him, maybe give him the shove he needed to win the race.
All right, Darrell, Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished a respectable second in the Daytona 500. What kind of gauge for the season and that victory we want to see?
And here's what I liked about after the race. Dale Jr. was energetic. I mean, he was pumped up. His interview was one of the best I've seen in a long time. That momentum coming in here, that second place finish, that may be just what he needs.
And this is one of his favorite tracks. He really likes this place.
He has won here twice. Michael, if Jimmie Johnson runs poorly today, and he's starting negative 23 overall in
Why are you asking him
please,
that?
Well, he's been there. Does that mean his championship hopes? This is a 5-time guy. He's out of the picture?
Never. I mean, they're going to appeal this thing. Plus, his car's fast here at Phoenix. He can win here. They win that appeal. Shoot, he might march to a 6th championship.
I like the fact that Kasey Kahne is now his teammate. Kasey Kahne won this race here last fall. That could be very helpful to Jimmie Johnson and Chad.
And Jimmie starts 4th today. Darrell, is Earnhardt Ganassi experimenting too much? We know Montoya's car, certainly what happened to a few of the other Ganassi cars.
When you do things to your race car, when you do tricks, when you do things that are maybe out of the box, it always leads to trouble. Keep it simple. Keep it basic. That's something that everybody needs to remember.
Chip.
Sorry, bro. We got to move along. All right,
you haven't been here long enough to do that.
There is a major story in another sport about bounties on players. In NASCAR, has there ever been a bounty on you?
Oh, well, people used to wear anybody but Waltrip T-shirts, so yeah, I think so. We used to kid about it, though. Yeah. I'm not sure these other guys were kidding.
We've come full circle. I met someone yesterday that had on a shirt that said Waltrip for president. So
really? But a driver would not get in the way of another driver.
No, you just
And who do you like today?
I like Jimmie Johnson. He's my man.
I like Greg Biffle.
Jimmie Johnson needs the bounce-back performance. We'll watch closely. Darrell's going to head up to the play-by-play booth to join Larry and Mike, and Michael and I will be here. Keep an eye on where Jeff Hammond is, and enjoy the race with you in the Hollywood Hotel. NASCAR on Fox from Phoenix, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. is trying to end a streak of 130 without a win. And there's Clint Boyer from Michael Waltrip Racing. Ryan Newman had a bad practice session, but expects to bounce back here in Phoenix. We're ready to go racing, and he gets my vote, at least for today.
Go, DW.
Good race of 36 points races in the NASCAR season as we're getting ready to roll here 20 miles from Phoenix. Let's head down trackside for opening ceremonies.
Race fans, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the Luke Air Force Base Color Guard present our nation's colors. And please remain standing as Phoenix International Raceway Chaplain Ken Bowers offers today's invocation.
Heavenly Father, today we celebrate freedom, blood-bought freedom that we can all enjoy. We thank you for the freedom that we have to be here at Phoenix International Raceway today. And I conclude my prayer with the words of our granddaughter Keegan this morning as she prayed, "Dear Lord, help the drivers to go fast. Keep all of us safe and no one gets hurt, and may we all have a good time. This we pray in your name," and everyone said, amen.
And now to sing our national anthem, please welcome national recording star Brian McKnight and his sons Broken Robot BJ and Nico.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the
Let's hear it for Brian McKnight and his son.
That's the way A.J. Allmendinger gets ready. Regan Smith ready to roll as well. Only 4 winners from the pole in 31 races here in Phoenix.
All right, we're just minutes away from the green flag, and I'm trackside hanging out with some of Subway's famous fans, Jared Fogle, Carl Edwards, and Ndamukong Suh. Oh, and Hammond's here, too. So, Ndamukong, what are some of the perks of being the Grand Marshal?
Well, for starters, I got the best seat in the house at the Subway Fresh Fit 500.
Whoa, that's the second best seat, man. Come on. He got you there, Ndamukong. I mean, after all, he is starting 24th today in the Subway Ford. And speaking of starting, Jared, I always love to start my day with a Subway breakfast sandwich with all the vegetables on it.
Hey, Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know what makes a steak, eggs, and cheese sandwich better?
No, I don't.
When you add plenty of jalapenos to it. Now, that's a great way to start your day.
No, for me, all those jalapenos, man. But you can put some green peppers, some red onions on my Black Forest egg and ham. I love that.
So, I did not know that.
Well, here's what I know. I'm hungry.
Yeah, Mike, can we eat yet?
All right, guys, dig in.
Great.
It was nice of Ndamukong to calm everybody down for that little thing there. Hey, what we saw Carl Edwards, and we're talking about who's fit. We had long travel, a short practice time, and hot temperatures. What's the effect?
It's been a hectic week, but they're mainly worried about this track, Chris, that outside groove. Carl's starting on the outside, and he told me, I got to get to the bottom as quick as I can. When you try to get to the bottom in a hurry, sometimes you run into each other.
Hot and slick, temperatures up in the 80s. Carl starting outside the top 20, along with guys like Matt Kenseth and Brad Keselowski, Earnhardt Jr., and Jeff Gordon as well.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, number 90 of the Detroit Lions, defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh.
Phoenix! I can't hear you, Phoenix! Are you ready to have some fun? Let's go! Drivers, start your engines!
Can Matt Kenseth make it 2 in a row? Can Jimmie Johnson bounce back to some of the questions that will be answered 312 miles away? The jalapeno tuna, featured $5 footlong of March.
Hi, I'm Ndamukong Suh. Subway is the official training restaurant of me and my fellow famous fan, Carl Edwards. Make Subway part of your training regimen too. Enjoy the great and well-trained drivers as they take part in the Subway Fresh Fit 500.
And it's hey now, here we go. Gonna get a little bit sideways.
Drivers anxious to get going here in Phoenix at the Subway Fresh Fit 500. And we're glad you're along for NASCAR on Fox, the second race of the season. Let's go back up to the play-by-play booth and welcome in once again Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, Mike Joy. As Michael Waltrip and I will be enjoying the race from here in the Hollywood Hotel. And guys, I'm excited to sit here and watch the race with you and looking forward to a lot of fun, hot action, Mike.
Thanks, Chris, and let me add our welcome back. Glad to have you with us. These 4 races starting today could be on tracks that couldn't be more different. 1 mile today, a mile and a half next week, a 5/8 mile Cereal Bowl, and then a 2-mile super speedway. So, Darrell, if you're going to win this championship, you got to get your game on right now, right here.
The most frustrating thing as a driver and a crew is to be really good at Daytona, get a great finish there, and then come to a track like this and struggle. If you're going to win the championship, you have to be consistent. You have to run good on every kind of racetrack, because we go to so many different kinds of tracks. You better be able to figure it out and figure it out in a hurry if you want to win the championship.
Yeah, and the reason it's a challenge from Daytona to Phoenix, you throw everything away that you learned there. This is a very short race. It's a fast pace. You're worried about having that car drive good. You're not worried about finding a buddy. You're not worried about bump drafting unless they're in your way. You want to ultimately achieve the same thing that Matt Kenseth did in the Daytona 500, but the journey there can be totally different here at Phoenix.
Let's have a look at the Geico starting grid for today's race in Phoenix. Mark Martin on the pole, his 52nd of his career. Tony Stewart, his best starting spot here. Regan Smith, 4th top 10 start in the last 6 races here. Jimmie Johnson, a bunch of top 5 finishes here. Juan Pablo's best start at Phoenix. Ryan Newman, top 5s in the last 4 races here. Greg Biffle, best at Phoenix, 2nd twice. Kevin Harvick, 2-time Phoenix winner. Joey Logano and Kasey Kahne, the winner here last November. Jeff Burton, 4th here last November, and Kyle Busch, who won here in 2005. Denny Hamlin, top dozen in the last 7 of 8 here. Marcus Ambrose, 8th last November. A.J. Allmendinger, top 10s both races here last year. Clint Boyer has a good record at Phoenix. Bobby Labonte and Eric Almirola got taken out in an accident in Daytona. Kurt Busch was leading here last fall, ran out of gas. Paul Menard, 9th here last November. Jamie McMurray trying for his 2nd top 10 here in 17 starts with Landon Castle. Dave Blaney, who nearly won the 500 with Carl Edwards. And as you look at the rest of the starting lineup, Darrell, who are we going to talk to?
Let's see if we can get Carl on the headset here. Carl, it's DW. You got a copy?
Gotcha, DW.
Hey, buddy, all we hear here at Phoenix is about track position, You're pretty far back. What's your plan to get up front?
Well, our plan is to just have a really good Subway Ford fusion here. Bob's going to make some good calls on the box, and he's going to try real hard to, to be consistent all day. It's a big day for us and for Subway. And I got to say that we're thinking about a couple people today. It's young Dakota Williams and young Robbie Moore. Both of those guys aren't with us anymore, but we're thinking about their families, and hopefully we have a good day for Robbie and Dakota and everybody here.
10-4, Carl. Our thoughts and prayers are with them as well. And what do you got to eat in the Subway car today?
Well, see, that's the game here. They specifically have deprived me of food. They got a sweet onion chicken teriyaki sub waiting for me in the victory lane. So that's the motivation today.
Well, as a car owner of mine used to say, go on up there and get it.
7-4, DW.
Have a good one, bud.
This race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Ready to race in Phoenix? Late breaking stories from pit road. Matt Yoakum.
Mike, it's an elbows up midsummer type day for Tony Stewart. He's hoping for a hot, slick racetrack because 21 of 44 career wins have come during the summer months. He rolls off outside pole with a car that he finished third with here last fall. Steve Burns?
Well, Matt, Jimmie Johnson said this is no time to hit the panic button. They actually have negative points after a disastrous Daytona 500. But if this is a place to get healthy, Jimmie Johnson will do it here. A four-time winner at Phoenix, Dick Berggren.
Steve, Ryan Newman is in a backup car, but it's a good one. He won with that car here 2 years ago. Newman starts sixth. Chris Devoda.
Race nothing but confidence, right? Not for Jeff Gordon. He won the race a year ago, but in the fall, in his words, stunk so bad. Keep your eye on the 24. They do not have this new configuration figured out. Jeff Hammond, where are you?
Chris, I'm up on top of Rattlesnake Hill, and it's been said the potential danger lies under every rock. Well, today, the same can be said about the track below and each of its forked turns. To me, the hot, slick conditions are really going to challenge these teams to make the right adjustments at the right times. And don't forget, they put a roller coaster in the middle of the back straightaway. Well, that can lead to trouble also. Putting it simply, this racetrack can strike from any place in a blink of an eye.
I think Jeff's got the best view of anybody in the place up there atop Rattlesnake Hill outside turns 3 and 4. It is a gorgeous day in Phoenix. Temp is headed into the 80s. The asphalt 105. A light breeze out of the northeast. Warm and sunny.
I like it hot. I like it slick. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Mark Martin, 53 years old, leads him to turn 3. Regan Smith, Tony Stewart fight for second.
You know what I like, DW? We just saw Tony Stewart in a 14 car make that pass up in that second groove. We wasn't sure we were going to have that early. I believe we've got a second groove of racing.
I think I like that pass right there even better. Down low into one, got under Mark. Mark gave him room. Tony's off to the races.
Oh, a big stack up as Mark Martin backs up in the middle of the field. They were 3 wide going into 3.
Boy, Mark's car looked like it got real loose going up through the dog leg back there.
You know, Jeff Hammond talked about it. I think the weather is such a huge issue. They have only qualified since they were on the track Friday. It's about 20 degrees hotter. This track has lost a ton of grip.
Jimmie Johnson coming to the front in the 48. Up to third spot. Greg Biffle right behind. Gave up the position. Who scraped the wall here on lap 1?
It's like the 9 car back there.
Yeah, Marcus Ambrose.
You know, Michael and I did that piece about double trouble down the back there, but turn 4 has been a culprit here as well. Gets really tight off both these turns, 2 and 4.
Kasey Kahne and his new ride, the Farmers Insurance number 5. Battling Mark Martin on the inside. Ryan Newman just behind them.
You know, Mike, Mark Martin in the 55 is not someone that will challenge you real hard right now. You get a little nose under him, get a little position on him, he's going to give it to you. He's really running very cautiously at this point.
Montoya takes over 5th in the 42. from Kevin Harvick.
We interviewed Juan a little earlier in the weekend, and you could almost hear the relief in his voice to get here and put that situation at Daytona with the jet dryer behind him.
Boy, I see a lot of race cars, Larry, right now that already need some serious adjustments. This isn't one of them. This 48 car, Jimmie Johnson, I keep an eye on that guy. I tell you why. Kasey Kahne won this race, and when Kasey Kahne and Kenny Francis came to work at Hendrick Motorsports, I really think they helped this 48 team, particularly here at Phoenix, where they struggled last year. You know, we talk about the dog leg, and it's really changed. When they reconfigured the track, it's almost taken the dog leg part out of that back straightaway. It's more like a big old sweeping turn from 2 all the way down to 3.
It is. It's kind of like a big arc.
Yeah.
Got about 100 suggestions last night on Twitter what to call it since it's no longer a dog leg, and we'll share some of them with you later on. Steve?
Mike, an update on Mark Martin in the 55, the pole center. He is perfectly fine. He just told his crew, don't worry about it. It was a little loose coming in, but we're going to be just fine.
And Steve, I almost believe we've been talking about it all weekend. They start the air pressure down in these tires because they know how much pressure they're going to build over a long run, and that will make a driver feel loose.
Yeah, and of course these tires don't have interliners in them like we do at some of the super speedways, and so that even makes the tires even feel like more of a big bowl of jelly when the pressure is low. And I know folks are probably saying, well, so why do you start them so low then? Well, you start them low because we're going to get a tremendous amount of buildup from the heat. And you see here, Kasey Kahne in the 5 working on Mark Martin in the 55.
I think to support what we're talking about, we're looking at our scoring monitor. We're here on lap 9, and every lap keeps getting quicker. It's because the air pressure is coming up in these tires. Now, eventually, it's going to cross the fence, and you'll start to lose grip because of laps on the tires and too much air pressure.
And eventually, being in about a lap or two, Jimmie Johnson is going to catch Tony Stewart for the lead.
So, Larry, if you leave Daytona, you got negative points coming to the next race. What is your mission?
Go up there and lead this thing and go to victory lane.
And get all the points you can.
A new view from Clint Bowyer's front bumper as he runs in 16.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 Hot Box is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. By Ford, proud sponsor of NASCAR. By Lowe's, Lowe's never stop improving. And by Subway Restaurants. Get to Subway pronto for their fresh takes on Italian. Subway, eat fresh.
Welcome back to Phoenix. 16 laps in. There's the reason for the first caution of the day. Jimmie Johnson had taken the lead from Tony Stewart, and in the back straightaway, Clint Bowyer had cut down a tire on his number 15 Toyota. So pit road is open for the first caution period of the day. Matt?
And Tony Stewart making his way down pit road. His car, he said, was very good on entry, even better on exit, but a little bit tight across the center. They're going to make an air pressure change and go left side tires on this stop. Steve.
Matt, we expect Jimmie Johnson to take just left side tires in that number 48 car. Left sides only.
Larry, a little bit of strategy here.
Well, the reason they're changing left side tires only, Chad Canals, Jimmie Johnson's crew chief, told me we're seeing a lot more left side wear than we are on the right side. This is a very hard tire. Doesn't have a lot of grip.
Mark Martin took no tires. He's the first one off pit road. Under caution in Phoenix.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 Hot Box is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buns.
First caution of the day for Clint Bowyer. 10 drivers stayed out. One of those, Robbie Gordon, just pitted. So that leaves, without having made pit stops, Kevin Harvick, Kasey Kahne, Regan Smith, Jeff Burton, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch, along with Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth, and Jeff Gordon, ready to go green to complete lap 20 of 312. Everybody's still on the lead lap. One car off track. Michael McDowell, the Glendale, Arizona native, is taking his car to the garage.
Really wasn't surprised to see those top 10 or so drivers stay out.
Whoa! Kasey Kahne just smacked the heck out of the fence coming off turn 4.
The number 5 of Kahne expected to contend today, and now the pack will work its way past him. We are still green as Kahne tries to get to the bottom of the racetrack.
I know I gave you a couple of woes there, but he lost it, then he caught it, and then it shot right out in the fence. Did a lot of damage.
Kahne was the second place car. He now drops to 42nd and will come to pit road. There's Kasey Kahne.
I watch him, Mike. Larry, he comes up off the corner. The car gets loose right there. Almost spun it. That was my first bull, and then that was my second one. And he's lucky he didn't get run over from the rear, but that did a lot of damage to that race car. And he's on pit road.
He actually hit that pretty hard with that right front, especially. Our winner from the November race.
I'd say that's got garage written all over it.
Kahne has come to pit road for service. He'll lose a lap or more as we continue under green.
As we go back and think about the cut tire on Clint Boyer's car, the 15, low air pressure, particularly in that right front. If you get it too low, it'll tear that tire up.
Steve?
Mike, a lot of people in the garage thought this could be a winning race car. Kenny Francis, the crew chief, saying get all the sheet metal off of the right side tires. You see them banging out the sheet metal over the what would be the right front tire with a lot of damage to the right side.
Car on the wall, turn 4. It's Clint Boyer. He's in trouble for the second time.
He's cut down another right front.
When you cut tires down that often and that close together, that's normally something rubbing the inside of the tire, possibly.
Yeah, it could be a sway bar arm. That happens a lot. That arm sets real close to the inside of the tire. It could be a brake duct, but something's cutting that tire down.
Now Boyer gets down to the apron without incident, so we continue under green. And two of the early favorites in this race, Kasey Kahne and Clint Boyer, laps down with cut tires. Off in the distance, here comes Boyer. Second red car.
And there it goes. I mean, that's just a cut down tire. Didn't hit the wall very hard, but it did do pretty significant damage.
And Darrell, when that right front tire's down, that steering wheel's useless. It won't do nothing but go straight.
Inside.
Well, you heard the tire go down. Sudden air loss is Goodyear's term. Dick Berggren?
Well, it's possible, Mike, that the splitter, which was damaged in that early flat tire, did the deed here. It was sort of dragging underneath the car, and the crew did not get an opportunity to fix it. But two flat right fronts, one after another for Clint Boyer.
Boyer and Kahne are both on pit road. Two drivers who are both with new teams this year. Two drivers who both have tremendous dirt track experience and were expected to contend here. Steve?
Kasey Kahne just radioed and said something is broken in this suspension. Kenny Francis thinks it's a sway bar arm on the right front. Now he's saying upper control arm, and the lower control arm is bent as well. Mechanics got the hood up now.
Steve, not surprised as hard as he hit that wall.
And I looked at the car coming down pit road, Larry, and the right front is tilted all the way in almost to the engine.
And so Kevin Harvick, who led 107 laps in the Saturday race here, is out in front. Now have a look at Dale Jr. here. He's got some damage to the left front corner.
Yeah, you can see the damage on the fender right there, Mike. And he's gotten into somebody and buckled that fender and has pushed it down on top of the tire.
Of the cars that made pit stops, Jimmie Johnson restarted 14th. Man, he's fast, Dale Jr.'s teammate. From 14th to 6th since the restart. So to set it for you, it's Harvick at the front. Regan Smith in second. Denny Hamlin third. Kyle Busch in fourth. Two Chevys and two Toyotas. The best Ford in the race is Matt Kenseth, and the best Dodge Charger in the race right now is Brad Keselowski in 8th, followed by A.J. Allmendinger 15th, and Robbie Gordon.
Fastest car running the fastest lap times right now is Jimmie Johnson in the 48 car. He is putting down some tremendously fast laps.
He's gained 8 positions since the restart. We we continue under green. Just one brief caution flag for Clint Boyer, but the wall has taken its toll in Phoenix as Kasey Kahne takes the Farmers Insurance Chevy to the garage. Kevin Harvick leading Regan Smith. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. We'll look at the fastest lap time and the lap leaders. Get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with live in-car audio and real-time stats. Only on the Sprint Network, the only national carrier with truly unlimited data. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Kevin Harvick's now led 22 laps. Tony Stewart led 9, Jimmie Johnson 6, and Mark Martin 1.
Kevin Harvick dominated the race here yesterday, but didn't win it. So sitting out there leading a lot of laps makes you feel good. Gotta capitalize on it.
Regan Smith 1.8 back in second. Denny Hamlin 2.5 back in third.
This guy right here, all weekend long out at Daytona, every race, Regan Smith, 78 car, first row, always up front. And here he is, he qualified good, running up front again today.
And why is that surprising? It's a single car team. It doesn't race out of the greater Charlotte area. Regan Smith is not one of the big established big stars of this sport, but soon he might be.
They're in Denver, Colorado.
Third place, Jimmie Johnson has caught Denny Hamlin. Remember, Johnson restarted 14th and has worked his way quickly through the field.
Well, I think that goes to show you how good of a race car Jimmie Johnson has. We know he was one of the drivers that came to pit road on that last caution. No one else has been able to make a lot of moves except Jimmie Johnson back up toward the front.
And you know, Michael and I were showing you the dog leg back there on the back straightaway and how that could lead to some trouble. But here's Jeff Gordon in a 24 car going around Brad Keselowski. See how he dropped to the apron, cut the dog leg, took the shortcut, got to position, and was able to make the pass. That's a nice, clean way to use the apron.
And unlike Daytona and Talladega, which are marked by a double yellow line at the inside of the track, there is no out of bounds here at Phoenix and at the other Sprint Cup tracks. Here is Jeff Gordon at 8th place. Krista.
Mike, Jeff Gordon started this race saying he was ungodly loose going into turn 1, but they needed track position because of his poor qualifying effort, so they stayed out. Jeff came on the radio a few laps ago and said, boys, it's starting to turn now.
And we saw that yesterday in some of the races here. Some guys stayed out on old tires after a caution. Some guys came in, got left side, some got right side, some got forward. This tire, my experience with Goodyear in their tire testing, when you go to a new track like we had here last fall, the right side tires are always real conservative, pretty hard. It's the left sides that take the beating. That's where they get the grip from, out of the left sides. Left side tires won the race yesterday. Probably going to be the factor again today.
All right, let's catch up with our Daytona 500 winner, Matt Kenseth, who has climbed from 26th up to 7th, Krista.
Well, Mike, in a similar situation as Jeff Gordon, they had to start the car loose because they know this track is going to tighten up. Matt said what he learned about this new configuration in the fall. He said, I like this track when the backstretch is, and this was his word of choice, weird.
Well, and we have to remember he was one of those 10 drivers that stayed out. This is a backup car. Matt Kenseth crashed early in that second practice on Friday. They had to unload this car. They did get a few laps, but he didn't get the qualifying run he was looking for.
Turn 4, you know, it never fails. Michael and I did that piece on the back straightaway and how that's where you want to watch. But just turn 4 here, traditionally under any configuration, has been the trouble spot. And watch what happened off turn 4 the last time around with Greg Biffle and Joey Logano in the 20 car down underneath him. Makes some contact, gets Biffle a little bit loose, makes the pass.
It's almost like Joey Logano's 20 car. It just wasn't wanting to turn right there. He was probably turning the wheel, but it was just sliding up the track.
Bit of an arrow push, I'd say.
And Jimmie Johnson used that arc in the back straightaway, the former dogleg, to make the pass on Regan Smith and move up to 2nd. Let's show it to you.
There he goes down on the, takes the shortcut. But right there is where Regan Smith in the 78 spotter probably said the 48 is under you, looking inside, and Regan was smart, gave Jimmie Johnson in the 48 the room.
Jimmie Johnson has finished in the top 5 in 10 of his last 11 races at Phoenix, all except last November. Kevin Harvick leading Jimmie Johnson by a second and a half. Regan Smith 2.5 back. Harvick in control right now.
NASCAR on Fox.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 is sponsored by Dodge. Visit your local Dodge dealer today. By AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. By GoDaddy.com, domains, websites, and everything in between. And by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV.
55 laps complete in the Subway Fresh Fit 500 at Phoenix. Kevin Harvick leading Jimmie Johnson, Regan Smith, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. Clint Boyer back on track, but Kasey Kahne, one of 6 cars in the garage. And Larry, of the top 10, 8 of these drivers did not stop under the caution for Clint Boyer. They're going to need to be in pit road pretty soon.
Yeah, Mike, the fuel window here at Phoenix is about 78 to 84 laps, so we're probably looking about 20 to 25 laps. Drivers like Kevin Harvick will have to make a green flag stop. All the other drivers, including Jimmie Johnson in the 48, they'll be able to go about 15, 16 laps further than that.
Well, if we get green flag pit stops, the spotters on the roof are going to be busy. And here at Phoenix, they have a unique viewpoint, which is shared by Jeff Hammond.
Yeah, Mike, I've relocated here to the top of the spotter stand. A little different than on the week at Daytona when the spotter stand was located right at the start-finish line. We're down at right about the middle of 1 and 2, and the biggest challenge for these guys is the fact that you exit off the late part of turn 4 to just about the start-finish line. You got to be careful. You try to tell your driver when he can clear in. A lot of times they got a better view on it, but from up here right now, it is a challenge for them. Just like this racetrack, these guys have had to adapt. But somebody make the right call here today. They may want to be in the winning one. One other thing, up here, I can really see how that 48 car, guys, is rolling the center of this corner and gaining on the 29.
Yeah, the 29 car's lead is a NFL. Not for long.
Steve?
Mike, Jimmie Johnson reporting to his team that his car is really good through 3 and 4. He said he can roll through there. And caution's out.
Debris, turn 3. Now that's the reason for the second caution of the day. It comes out working lap number 60 here in Phoenix.
And that caution, the timing of it's perfect for those drivers we just talked about, because for the most part now, everyone is on equal ground. Everyone's going to have to come to pit road. I think we'll still see a mixed bag of strategy, but I think every driver will be on pit road.
Well, I think, Larry, the 48 took 4 tires on his pit stop, and we saw how fast he was.
Phoenix native J.J. Yaley will get the free pass. He was the first car 1 lap down. And here they come to pit road. Krista.
Kevin Harvick telling his crew chief Shane Wilson, I needed to turn better, but whatever you do not take away my grip. Dick?
Regan Smith is going to have to pit as well. He's got the condition of loose in one part of the racetrack, tight in another, Matt.
And Denny Hamlin telling his new crew chief Darian Grubb he has to wait way too long to get back in the gas, especially on exit of turn 4. It's costing him too much time. Track bar adjustment, Steve.
Chad Canals reminding Jimmie Johnson not to stop deep in his box. Better stop this time. Saying he's just getting a little bit tight in the center at both ends of the racetrack. Earl Barvin, the spotter, reminding him to take care of his brakes. 4 tires for Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah, Darryl, when you've got as good a car as Jimmie Johnson has, you may have to do something late in the race, but give me 4 tires every time.
Wow, look at the gamble.
The history of that 48 car.
The gamble by Kurt Busch. He takes on just 2 tires and gains 16 positions to second. Ready for the restart in Phoenix. Ford F-150 EcoBoost Track Facts. Ford has 13 wins here in the desert. Roush Fenway got their 300th NASCAR win across NASCAR's top 3 series in the Daytona 500. And the last Phoenix Sprint Cup races have been won by different drivers, 6 in a row.
And the last 4 broke huge winless streaks for 4 different drivers.
Clint Boyer gets the wave around, so does Josh Wise. Word gets one of his 5 laps down back. Kasey Kahne is back in the race. Jimmie Johnson, Kurt Busch will lead them down to the restart green behind the Dodge Charger Police Pursuit safety car. We're going to go racing. We're going to crank it up for you on Fox. Last time by, Kurt Busch really dirt tracked it off turn 4 to try to hold that lead from Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah, I think Jimmie kind of said, let Kurt get in front of him into 51 because he knows he's got a little bit better car and he's got better tires. He's just setting him up.
Johnson makes his move to the inside for the lead. And the all-time lap leader at Phoenix, 877 and counting, Jimmie Johnson out front. Matt?
And Kurt Busch on their first run, Mike, just the opposite of the last run. The first run, the car was really tight in the center. They made some big adjustments, took 4 tires. The second stop, they just took lefts. The car was loose, but this team really trying to build on something after a very difficult and struggling speed weeks in Daytona.
But you learned something right there, Mike, Larry. I mean, the 51 car, what if that had been a green-white checker? Could have been a different deal.
Kurt Busch slip sliding around. Here comes Matt Kenseth and younger brother Kyle Busch in the 18. Kyle Busch to third, or second rather, behind Johnson. Kenseth battling Kurt Busch for third.
That last set of pit stop, Matt Kenseth's crew, we're riding with Matt right now. They had a well of a pit stop, which doesn't come as no surprise.
That time by, Larry, Jimmie Johnson in the 48 and Kyle Busch in the 18 ran almost identical lap times.
.70 complete this time by in the garage. Michael McDowell, Scott Riggs, Robbie Gordon, Landon Castle, who got tipped into the wall by David Rudeman. Cars laps down. Kasey Kahne minus 37. Joe Nemechek, Clint Boyer.
See Denny Hamlin in the 11 there. Now he's under fire right now from Kevin Harvick in that 29. Darrell talked about information being transferred. This was the last pit stop though. Watch the rear tire changer, but look, he never quit digging. And if you'll watch, the left side tires came off at the same time. But Darrell, you talked about information being transferred from one organization to another. Think back to Darian Grubb, who was Tony Stewart's crew chief that ran so well here. Now he's with Denny Hamlin.
They only lost 9/10 of a second on that stop.
Because you can see the time spent on pit road, what the driver did was identical.
And Mark Martin was the quickest off pit road that time. So despite the air hose getting wrapped up with the man making the track bar adjustment, very little loss of time. Next week back in the desert, but we're in Las Vegas on the 1.5 miles of the Kobalt Tools 400 on Fox.
Pit crews have a tendency to kind of step it up a notch if you're running good. Mark's team, you know, he's on the pole. He's running good. They know he got a chance to win today. That's big motivation for a pit crew.
Kevin Harvick grabs the spot from Kurt Busch and moves back into the top 5. 2 Chevys, 2 Toyotas, and a Ford in the top 5 after 74 laps in Phoenix.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 on Fox is sponsored by Subway. Subway broke the 200-calorie breakfast barrier with egg white morning melts. Subway, eat fresh. Already 7 different leaders here in Phoenix, and time for an AT&T race break brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network, Rethink Possible. Jimmie Johnson leads Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth. Remember, Jimmie started -23 after Daytona, has the fastest lap so far. He's led more than anyone else, but problems for Clint Boyer, Michael.
Yeah, I talked to the team that said it looked like the first time they just cut a tire. No real reason why that happened. Watch Kasey Kahne here. Gets all the way sideways, overcorrects, boom, into the outside wall. A result from Boyer's first cut tire. He cuts another one. Some of the damage done in the first wreck caused him, or the first flat tire caused him to have to come back to pit road again.
Kasey Kahne in the garage and back out as we talk about Jimmie Johnson, who during testing, a test session last year, the designer of the track casually talking with Jimmie about the backstretch, and the designer said to Jimmie, "You're not driving it right." And Jimmie just kind of smiled. He's won here 4 times, and obviously a very important race given what happened in Daytona, and he is ahead of the pack right now.
Yeah, Daytona was a disaster for this whole team. A crash early in the race, the penalty obviously. He came to Phoenix on a mission. I guarantee he said, I got to put that behind me, go win the race. He's the only driver on the track that's run down into the 26-second bracket. He's got a couple of tenths on the field, Chris. I need to make some adjustments if I want to catch him. This is a cat that's been running well too. You heard Darrell talk about a great pit stop by the crew. It fires up the driver when the crew does their job. They were the fastest off pit road last time. Mark's driven up to the 8th spot. So solid effort for the young man there so far.
At age 53, not the oldest pole sitter though, that was Harry Gant at 54, but in now the 32nd race here at Phoenix, only 4 times has the pole sitter gone on to win this race. A check of AT&T's fastest driver challenge. Remember to text FAST to 34763 to play, or visit AT&TfastestDriver.com for a chance to win AT&T's fastest driver challenge. Rethink possible. And as we rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike, you know, Mike, Kyle Busch in 2 of the last 4 races here led with 10 laps to go but failed to win. He's certainly the one guy keeping the heat on Jimmie so far.
Thanks, Chris. He's sure to be a contender. He runs 3.5 seconds behind the race leader as we cross through 84 laps complete.
And Michael mentioned the 48 car and overcoming that debacle they had at Daytona. I know the DNA of that team, and that team was one that will come back with a vengeance, and they will show you that we may be negative points today, but we won't be tomorrow.
Johnson finished 42nd, but before the car even got on the track, Chad Knaus, who you see on the right, and car chief Ron Malik were docked by NASCAR. They were found to have had the C-pillars, the rear windshield, the rear window posts on the car, not in compliance with NASCAR spec. And when penalties were handed down, 6 race suspension, $100,000, and 25 championship points. Hendrick Motorsports has appealed, and until the appeal is heard, which could be next week or the week after perhaps, they are allowed to remain at the racetrack working on the car until the 3-man appeals board renders its decision.
And if they uphold the decision, if the appeal board upholds it, you're looking at Chad Knaus there on the right, that'd be like a football or baseball team losing their head coach and their assistant head coach for 6 weeks.
And at the opposite end of the spectrum is the trouble 48 had at Daytona, but Dale Jr. in the 88 car, he had a great Daytona, but not today. His car is wrecking loose. He says it's chatter in the right rear, and he is falling back. He's in 26th spot and doesn't like his car.
Krista, he made an extra pit stop under that last caution and fell from 24th to 31st.
Yes, he did, Mike. The reason why the team needed to pull the fender from a tire rub when Junior came down pit lane that extra time, he told crew chief Steve Letarte, I don't remember hitting anyone. The team told him, well, Eric Almirola slid up into you early in the race. They took advantage of the extra stop by putting extra Sunoco fuel in the car. So what's going on with Dale Jr. right now?
What'd you say? So I'm half concerned coming back in and beating on that fender a little more. It was rubbing harder than I thought. What fender is hitting? I ain't hit nobody. The left front is rubbing. Stupid to cut a tire with that many guys behind us. Come on in right here.
Well, we've already seen what a cut tire can do to you. Just the same thing it did to Clint Boyer, not once but twice in that 15 car.
Junior has rebounded to 26th, 19 seconds behind his Hendrick teammate Jimmie Johnson, who leads Kyle Busch still by the same 3.5 seconds.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 is sponsored by Farmers. We are insurance. We are farmers. By Lowe's. Lowe's never stop improving. And by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers.
Enter now for a chance to win the Camaro Synergy and a Talladega Race Weekend package and meet Tony Stewart. Visit WinCamaroSynergy.com to enter. 97 laps complete. Kyle Busch has cut down Jimmie Johnson's margin from 3.5 now to 2.8 seconds. First to second, Matt.
Mike, a big help in reeling in the 48 comes from his spotter, Tony Hirschman Jr. Earlier, Kyle asked Tony to do some comparison about where he was running to the 48's line.
Going from segment 5. Try to give me 3 and 4 versus 1 and 2 with the leader. I think he's killing me down here.
I think what I'm seeing is only way they're going to catch that 48 car is if that yellow line that he's stuck to happens to disappear, because he is eating that yellow line up on both ends of the track, and that's something that Kyle in the 18 is not able to do. He seems to shove up a little bit, center off.
But Jeff Hamlin was up on the spotter stand a while ago. That's just another role that the spotter can play, especially at a place like this, is giving the driver information about where the driver that's leading the race is actually running on the track.
Kyle Busch in second, Matt Kenseth the first Ford in the race in third, 4.8 seconds back. Then Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, Kurt Busch, and Brad Keselowski in ninth. Now Keselowski drives a Dodge for Roger Penske, the captain, who has won championships in Trans Am, in Can-Am, in IndyCar, in kart, and virtually everywhere he's raced except the Sprint Cup Series. So change is going to come in the Penske cap. When Jeff Hammond was up on the spotter's perch, he had a chat with Roger Penske.
Well, we caught up with Roger Penske, and Mr. Penske, this week you made a big announcement about a change your team's getting ready to do. You're going to be going from Dodge to Ford.
Well, Jeff, you know, it's one of those things that was a big decision for us as a team. Obviously, we've had a great run with Dodge, with SRT. The opportunity, though, to team with Ford and Ford One, to benchmark ourselves in the future, and have the opportunity to work with the Roush Fenway team, which is a world-class team, gives us a great opportunity in 13. We haven't won this championship, so you got to keep changing until you get there.
Well, and Roger said it right there. I think that makes a huge statement. He has had drivers in this circuit since 1972. Full time starting in 1991 with Rusty Wallace. He's won 70 run races. He's won the Daytona 500, Darrell, but still has not won a Sprint Cup Series championship.
They're out on an island by themselves. It's basically two cars. Roger Penske's two cars. Dodge doesn't have any other teams to share information with like the other manufacturers do.
Now, Penske ran Fords from 1994 to 2002. His first driver in the Sprint Cup Series, Mark Donohue. They did get a win with American Motors on the road course, but have run with virtually all the different manufacturers in the time since.
And there was a time when I thought maybe being out there on that island by yourself was an advantage, but I think it's caught up with them. They just don't have the resources of teammates and other teams.
Now Dodge will continue as we look at race leader Jimmie Johnson and Chevrolet. Next week at Las Vegas, Dodge will introduce their 2013 Sprint Cup Dodge Charger. The photos I've seen, it looks just like the street car. It's going to be quite a look. The gap now 3.4. Jimmie Johnson stretching it out on Kyle Busch as Kyle works a little bit of race traffic, moving past Mike Bliss, trying to there in the 32. And Matt Kenseth remains just about 5 seconds back in third.
And that's a backup car. I mean, they had to get a backup car off. The 17 did, but it didn't slow them down one bit. They qualified pretty well, and here they are racing right at the front.
Denny Hamlin in 11 cars, started back in the 13th position. Been right up there in the top 5 for a number of laps, running 4th right now.
And Hamlin is off to a pretty solid start. Got a 4th place finish last Monday night at Daytona. Team looks like it's really gelling good. He and Darian Grubb, they're really working well together. And Hamlin has got a really good attitude right now about this season.
Kevin Harvick 6.5 back, and Tony Stewart 8.5 seconds back. Stewart running in 6th. He started from the outside pole today. And at 107 laps, Mark Martin, the pole sitter, in 7th place. Steve, 10 seconds off the lead.
Mike, when he stopped on lap number 60 when the caution flew, Mark's comment was, I need more front grip in this race car. To effect that change, they took some air out of the right front tire, and he's been able to make up a few positions, as you said, running 7th.
And it's sort of a balancing act. You would like to run some tape on the grill, on the nose of the car, to plant that nose and get that front end to turn better, but you can't. It's too hot. So you got to take all the tape off the grill, off the brake ducts, got to have all the air going into the car that you can. That's conducive to aero push.
Pretty impressed with Kurt Busch. Yeah, he lost some positions when he changed just 2 tires versus 4 tires, but he has settled into the top 10 in 8th.
Brad Keselowski, first Dodge in the race at 9th, and Juan Pablo Montoya coming off that bizarre accident at Daytona under caution in 10th, with Jeff Gordon breathing down his neck. 109 laps complete as Jimmie Johnson pads his all-time lap lead at Phoenix.
All your questions will be answered right here on Fox.
112 laps complete in the Subway Fresh Fit 500. Kyle Busch wins the race off pit road under caution. Casey Mears in the Geico number 13 running 27th. Last car on the lead lap is okay. After a big hit with the turn 1 wall. Look at him just in front of the onboard camera on Kasey Kahne's number 5.
We actually are racing Landon Castle in the 83, though. He's on our lap. That's up here. Stay low, come on. You're all clear.
Mike, that had the appearance of too much rear brake. Got down in the corner, got on the brakes, locked up the rear maybe a little bit.
And Darrell, that's what a driver will go to. He has those 2 systems, front and rear. If maybe the car's not turning under braking, he can put a little bit of rear brake into it.
Yeah, and if you're having a brake problem, you can dial a little to the rear, try to help that. Look like it may had too much. That's just how it looked.
Kasey is okay, but the Geico Ford will be hauled back to the garage.
That brake just freaking went to the floor. Major damage. Go to garage, guys.
You say the brake pedal went to the floor?
Yeah, that's what it looked like he was having brake trouble. And when you are, you'll start to dial some rear in to take some heat off the fronts. And it looked like it locked up the rears.
The speeds you run here that you carry off in the corner, you use a tremendous amount of brake into these fairly flat corners.
Third caution flag of the day. There is Dave Blaney. He gets our Aaron's lucky dog. And we'll be back on the lead lap when we go back to green. You don't need credit. All you need is Aaron's. Let's catch up on the pit stops, beginning with Steve.
Mike, 48 car takes 4 tires, a small chassis adjustment. They raised the Panhard bar on the right rear of that number 48 car. Jimmie's saying the car was just a little bit snug. Chad Knaus looked at the tires that came off the car and said they look great. Matt Yoakum.
Steve, crew chief Dave Rogers' stopwatch told him that Kyle Busch was getting beat by the 48 of Jimmie Johnson down in turns 3 and 4. Now they went for 2 tires on this stop, left side tires for the 18. He says he's right on the fence of one way or the other being too tight or too free. Krista?
The Daytona 500 champion said his car was getting more free as the run went on, but he said he needed some turnability in the center and needed the front end to stick. If you're crew chief Jimmy Fennick, how do you make that happen? With air pressure. Also 4 tire change for Matt Kenseth. Dick?
Well, Carl Edwards started in the 24th position. You might have thought he was going to do a whole lot better than that since he finished second here on this newly reconfigured track last fall. But he has run in the 20s all day long. They're trying to get the chassis to where the car is going to behave the way Edwards wanted it. They did make an adjustment and took 4 tires on the last stop.
Thanks, Dick. That catches you up on pit stops. But for Ryan Newman, who started 6th in a backup car after a practice crash, NASCAR has said that Newman's crew removed equipment from the pit box. He was running 12th. He'll restart tail end.
That's one of the risks you run when you change just 2 tires, because the pit crew gets done so quickly. If they're making a chassis adjustment, a lot of times they'll leave one of those wrenches stuck down in the back window.
I like the strategy of Kyle Busch in the 18 car. Left side tires. That won the race yesterday. It won the race here last fall in the Saturday race. So this is going to be an interesting experiment for the 18.
Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. You'll look at most laps led and the biggest mover in today's race. Get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with live in-car audio and real-time stats only on the Sprint Network, the only national carrier with truly unlimited data. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Dave Blaney got the free pass. He'll be the 27th car on the lead lap as we go back to green. 115 of 312 complete. 116 this time by. 1 to go. We go back to green. Kyle Busch first on the list of our Toyota top performers. Pole sitter Mark Martin 5th, Denny Hamlin 7th, and Joey Logano 11th. Martin Truex 13th.
It's going to be a fun restart right here. Got some good fast cars there to challenge Jimmie Johnson. See how this works out.
Kevin Harvick in that 29 car, his team elected to change just left side tires as well, just like Kyle Busch's crew.
They learned that yesterday. That was a winning secret yesterday. We'll see how it works out today. These cars got a whole lot more power than the cars yesterday did.
Casey Mears' car headed for the hauler as we get ready to go green, and we'll crank it up for you on this restart. Side by side for third. Keselowski on the outside of Johnson, then Kenseth battling Mark Martin.
Well, there were some bold moves made on that back straightaway right after that restart.
Yeah, that's when the trouble spot over there, Larry. It's when you're in traffic and these guys get all bottled up. You don't have any. Look. They're 3 wide right here. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going down here where there isn't anybody. It looks weird, and I'm not so sure it's a good idea to do that, but they do make nice passes when they can get back up in front of people.
Well, on the restart, Darrell, are you up to full speed by the time you're middle of the backstretch first time by?
You may not. The guys in front of you may not be, but you may have such a head of steam that you got to have somewhere to go with it.
Talked about Brad Keselowski a little earlier in that 2 car. Brad started back in the 28th position. And he's up there battling Kevin Harvick in the 29 for second. Got caught in that late race accident at Daytona. That was his first did not finish race in 75 races.
Larry, I think we're seeing exactly what we saw yesterday in that race. Those left side tires. Run those rights to death. You can put those lefts on there and pick up a lot of speed.
Yeah, the rights aren't wearing, but the left sides are, which is backwards from what we normally have at an oval track.
Jeff Gordon in the midst of it there. Let's check with Krista.
Remember at the start of the race, Mike, when I said Jeff Gordon and the 24 team have been shaking their heads about this new track configuration? Well, Gordon has made up ground on the track, but he was frustrated recently with the 42 of Juan Pablo Montoya. Here is some radio chatter from the 24 team.
I'll ask that spotter if this is really how we want to do this. I'm standing next to him right now. No, I mean, because he's having to be defensive, the guys behind him can't. Yeah, 10-4. I'm talking to him, but you can't fix stupid.
You gotta love them spotters. They tell it like it is, buddy. At least in their world.
Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano race for 8th.
Joey Logano on that 20 had a good run at Daytona, top 10 finish. Joey knows he's got to keep having performances like that and like this. This is a contract year for Joey Logano.
Matt?
Mike, great opportunity for Denny Hamlin and Darian Grubb just to gel, because Denny told me this is the first real race where handling is important. And he told me the biggest surprise about Darian, just he's so quiet on the radio. Meanwhile, they're trying to get that race car a lot better. He says it was just too free on takeoff for the first 2 to 4 laps, and then it went tight quickly on exit.
And you know what they're going to have to do, you talked about Darian Grubb, the championship crew chief from last year. They're going to have to possibly weigh out different air pressure and then make other adjustments to the car to compensate for it.
Darian is real methodical. He's not going to, he's thinking a lot. He's always thinking about what they want to do. He doesn't talk a lot, though, on the radio.
Still there, clear, clear.
Carl Edwards makes the pass on Regan Smith, and look at Brad Keselowski. He and the 29 of Kevin Harvick just ran their fastest laps of this race here at lap 126.
Joey Logano in that 20 car did as well.
Well, Larry, I think fast forward here a little bit. We're nowhere near the end of the race yet, but I think we know what people will probably try on that last green flag stop or caution flag stop near the end of the race. Tire-wise.
Always gathering data.
That's right.
Kyle Busch leading Kevin Harvick by 1.8 seconds. Jimmie Johnson 2.7 off the lead. Keselowski on his bumper, and Mark Martin 3 seconds back of first place.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 on Fox is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
We're under caution for the 4th time today. Coming out of turn number 4, A.J. Allmendinger's number 22 Dodge gets a little loose. Paul Menard slams into him, and Jamie McMurray is also involved. Have a look.
Mike, I was watching that 22 car. He was struggling. He was really falling back, or at least he was having a hard time keeping up. And he probably got up out of the gas a little bit. Menard in the 27 nerfed him. Gets a little bit loose. You can see him fighting the wheel right there. Broke his momentum just enough. Menard got him.
And what really knocked the deck lid off of A.J. Allmer's 22 car was actually when he hit the wall on the outside. Knocked spoiler, deck lid, and all off.
They were battling for 15th place. Let's go to the leader's pit. Steve.
Mike, I can't tell you what a huge break this caution flag is for Jimmie Johnson. He had just reported a vibration. He said he is 1,000% convinced he has a loose wheel. They were just about to pit when the caution came out. They will take this opportunity to change 4 tires.
Wow.
Yeah, he was coming in next time by when that caution came out.
And there's the damage to McMurray's Chevrolet. Collateral damage as Allmendinger and Menard got together. There's Paul Menard trying to limp around for repairs.
Yeah, we had about 14 drivers stay out. Not surprised, we'd only run 15 laps.
The Subway Fresh Fit 500 on Fox is sponsored by Toyota.
Under caution in Phoenix, 137 laps complete out of 312, and this is the 3rd pit stop under this caution for Jimmie Johnson to work on the right rear.
And I believe they probably have some lug stud issues, what the lug nuts go on, and probably what they may do is add a little bit of wheel spacer on there just to take care of where maybe those threads on the lug stud are having an issue.
Chad looks pretty confident. He didn't look like he was all that worried. And that is a pretty easy fix if that's the problem.
No, we've got at least 2 more pit stops to make for sure.
Johnson remains on the lead lap, currently posted 25th. Jamie McMurray, crash damage to the right front. He also continues on the lead lap, and so does the other car involved. A.J. Allmendinger. Looks like a little more serious work being done on Paul Menard's car. Let's stop in at the University of Farmers. Jeff Hammond.
Mike, we said it in the pre-race. You've got to manage your brakes when it comes to this racetrack. It's just like a short track. If you don't take care of them, they won't take care of you. From on board Kasey Kahne's car, you see the 13 car back in, come around, go up into the outside wall, and this basically just hammer that outside wall. all because the brakes went away. Right over my shoulder, you can see what's left of this race car when the brakes don't work here. And guys, we're just reaching halfway. You've got to manage your brakes all race long.
Certainly 2012 not starting off for Casey Mears like he'd like to see it. Made the swap over to Ford during the off season. They had the fuel pressure issue last week, and now this.
One to go.
Out of the race, Josh Wise, Casey Mears, Joe Nemechek, Robbie Gordon, Scott Riggs, and Michael McDowell.
Hey, Larry Mack, you talked about putting a wheel spacer on the right rear of Jimmie Johnson's car. Could that possibly cause him some issues in post-race tech? You just think about moving the tread width around and changing the way that body is configured over the tires. We work in awful tight tolerances. Could that be an issue?
Well, certainly it could be too wide, Michael, but I truly believe and I know this 48 team and Jimmie Johnson are certainly under a microscope right now because of what happened at Daytona. But I think possibly NASCAR, if indeed they were too wide on the rear, which I would say if they were, it's only going to be a little bit, because of what they've encountered, I think they would take that into consideration.
Probably talking about a 1/16 of an inch at the most, and they can.
That's about what Boyer's car was out of whack last year at Loudon, and that got him in trouble. So tight tolerances are a part of our world these days.
27 cars on the lead lap facing the green flag. Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick in front of Brad Keselowski and Mark Martin back into turn one. And Busch scrambling to try to hold on to second as Harvick scoots away. Can't do it. Keselowski to second. Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, the front three. Look at this three wide. And Kurt Busch up in the loose stuff.
It's a scramble.
Hangs on.
It is a scramble, man, on these restarts. They're everywhere. Up against the wall, down on the apron.
Darrell, what I'm seeing is that more than ever, Phoenix is racing like a short track because it's a long hold tenet of short track racing. The best opportunity to make your passes is on a restart.
Got to get them while they're all bunched up. You can get a whole lot. You can get a whole bunch of them that way. Once they get strung out, it's a little more difficult.
Keselowski slipped. Here comes Hamlin on the inside. And Edwards stacks him up with Ryan Newman, and Jeff Gordon has to bail out of it in turn three.
Boy, Carl did a good job not to get into the 39 car. Newman did a good job not to get into 24 and Gordon. That was all tight racing.
These are all drivers that stayed out under that last caution, elected not to come to pit road.
Biffle up high, wags the tail just a bit getting into turn one.
So the top running driver right now, as we see right here, a battle for the lead. Kevin Harvick in the 29 underneath Kyle Busch in the 18. Kevin Harvick led this race earlier, wanting to lead again.
I just think running yesterday's race, Larry, would be invaluable with this reconfigured racetrack to get information that some people may not have.
And both of those drivers ran yesterday's race, Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick.
Kyle Busch completes the pass and goes back to the lead where he was running before the caution. And now Edwards back to work on Ryan Newman on the outside. This is for 11th with Jeff Burton looking on in the 31.
Darrell, to your point, our top four drivers ran the race yesterday.
Yeah,
Kyle Busch, Harvick, Keselowski, and Hamlin.
And they all were very competitive, ran up front.
Look at Mark Martin in the 55 as he battles Denny Hamlin. Mark is going to run a partial schedule most of the races, 24, 25 or so this season. Michael Waltrip will run a few, and
it was announced yesterday Elliott Sadler starting at Bristol is going to run about 5 races for MWR this year.
But Mark's not reaching for his AARP card just yet. He is still very much a part of this, as evidenced by the pole run yesterday And his race today, he's in 4th place.
It's a typical Mark Martin race to me. Early on, he didn't push the issue, let people go. Now that they're strung out a little bit, he's got his car like he wants it. Now he's racing.
And I know we keep saying 53-year-old Mark Martin, but I promise you, he's probably in better shape than 2/3 of our drivers. Has a very strong workout regimen, and what energizes his workout is music. The man loves rap music.
He must have it turned up wide open right now because he's rapping on up there.
Martin in 4th. Let's go back about 15th place. Back around Marcus Ambrose, Greg Biffle, Kurt Busch. There is Biffle in 15th. Matt?
Mike, the balance is better, but still loose for Greg Biffle. Typically at New Hampshire and Martinsville, we'll see the crew members who are the brake specialists travel to the races now at Phoenix. The speeds are up. They're braking much more violent, especially here at Phoenix. Biffle thinks he has some kind of braking issue. Matt Fuchsia looks at the car every time by. Your rotors are not glowing, although others are, but we'll pull some tape. That's the game plan on the next time he hits pit road to get a little more cooling to the brakes.
Yeah, Matt, we go to Martinsville, our shortest track. We all think about brakes, brakes, brakes. But here, the speeds, and you don't have that real low gear to slow you down when you go off in the corner.
I wouldn't be happy if I had tape on my brake ducts.
No,
That's
sir.
not a very good idea.
Kyle Busch leads the Subway Fresh Fit 500 by half a second over Kevin Harvick, Mark Martin, and Brad Keselowski.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. By AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. By Pizza Hut, order the new $10 dinner box today. And by Aaron's, credit is hard, Aaron's is easy. Glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox from Phoenix. Now it's time for our AT&T mid-race report. Moments ago, Carl Edwards just said on the radio, this car is fast. Carl Edwards moving up inside the top 12 after being outside the top 20 much of the time. And anytime Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick are near each other, that's big news because they have a history of not liking each other, but that's the top of the leaderboard. Darrell, who are you keeping an eye on?
Chris, we talked about they're doing great pit work in the pits. He started on the pole. He loves short tracks, and that's how this thing's racing today. Keep an eye on the 5-5.
Well, I'm looking at Dale Earnhardt Jr. because he was almost a lap down outside the top 25. He got a break. A caution fell inside the top 20. Now he just ran his fastest lap of the race. Dale Jr. is on the move.
Yeah, Michael, we've gathered a lot of information about what to do on pit road. We see that the left side tires are wearing, and changing them does a lot. Steve Burns, my last pit stop anytime after lap 230, left side tires only.
Will a loose right rear wheel keep Jimmie Johnson from winning this race? He had to restart back in 25th after running out front most of the day. He is now marching one at a time. He says the car is good, but trying to be patient, Mike Joy.
Thanks, Steve. Look carefully at the top 10 at halfway, including last year's winner, Jeff Gordon, currently 9th. In the last 10 races at Phoenix, the winner has been in the top 10 at the halfway mark. Chris?
And Mike, we should keep an eye on Daytona 500 winner Matt Kenseth in the top 10 as well. That is your AT&T mid-race report, Mike. A lot of racing to go here in the Arizona desert.
Yeah, we're only halfway home. Weather, not a factor. Nice to see that after a long week in Daytona Beach to get the 500 in. Ending very early in the wee hours of Tuesday morning. Matt Kenseth the winner. Kyle Busch in control right now over Kevin Harvick by the narrowest of margins, 1 car length. Harvick continues to stalk the race leader.
Now, these first 3 cars here, the 18, the 29, and the 55, running real equal lap times. Harvick might be a tad quicker than the 18 of Busch.
Guys, when you look at our top 9 drivers right now, from Kyle Busch all the way back to Jeff Gordon, remember they all stayed out on that last caution. About another 25 laps, they'll have to make a green flag pit stop should we not get that caution.
Top 3 all under a blanket. Brad Keselowski is 3.2 seconds back with Hamlin on his bumper.
Hey, watch this.
for the lead. Harvick looks inside and is denied at turn 3.
Boy, while those guys are going at it, look at Mark Martin in that 55 car. He's just slowly but surely reeling them in.
There, he's sitting there lurking right now.
He truly is.
Mark's liking what he's seeing. I mean, Mark's a smart guy. He's analyzing these two guys. He's, go ahead and wear your stuff out.
You know, the amazing thing about Mark Martin, with several races to go in 2011, he really didn't even know if he was going to have a ride for 2012 because he was looking for what Michael Waltrip gave him, an opportunity to run a semi-partial schedule.
Traffic. Harvick to the outside, but Kyle Busch to the inside of the wounded Paul Menard car.
Harvick's a little quicker right now, Mike. He's really stalking the 18 there, trying to figure out and get an opening here. If he does, I think he'll probably blow right by him.
And we know there's no love lost between those two drivers right there. A lot of past history with them in all the series.
Good thing it's not late in the race.
Now both on track and off. Oh, Kyle comes almost up into the side of David Stremmy's number 30. Harvick goes to the apron and back up for the lead into 3, and Kyle shoves it in there a car length further.
And see, Mark is sitting there waiting for something to happen here. And hopefully nothing bad. He just wants something to happen so he can make his move. Can't pass them both unless they get together.
Larry, if you're Kevin Harvick's crew chief right now, what do you tell him?
Well, I probably just let him do his own deal, but I'm a little bit nervous right now. I think this just goes to show you where our sport's at right now. They know leading laps, getting bonus points, every single point you can get is important for the big picture, and that's making the chase in the championship.
It's rather frustrating to be sitting there like Harvick is, and you see here now he's got a pretty good run alongside of Kyle. Might even do a little side drafting off of him if that's possible. But he'd get a little bit annoyed, and Kyle just overdrove the corner.
That's what that smoke was. That was brake smoke or possibly even sliding the wheel.
He slid to right front a little bit, and that opened the door, and there goes Harvick right by with Mark in hot pursuit.
Michael Waltrip with 144 laps to go. Why would two drivers be beating each other's brains out like this with so much of this race left to run?
Because they don't like each other. They're not going to give this fight up. You saw Kyle Busch overshoot the turn. He slid into turn 1. That's not like Kyle Busch. He's aggressive, but he makes very few mistakes. That's how much he wants to outrun Kevin Harvick.
Well, that's where he was really beating Harvick at the most, was getting into the corner, and you could see why, because he was really carrying a lot of speed in there. He just overdid it into 1.
And while those drivers were doing it, driver we're riding with, Brad Keselowski in that 2, he was coming to the picture.
That's right. He's moved up to within 1.8 seconds of the lead with 143 to go in Phoenix.
Fresh Fit 500 is sponsored by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. By Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. By Napa, Napa know-how. And by GoDaddy.com, domains, websites, and everything in between.
Kevin Harvick leads Mark Martin by 0.8 of a second. Friday, The Ultimate Fighter premieres live only on FX, making its debut at its new home. 32 contenders face off in a special 2-hour premiere event. The Ultimate Fighter, now live, Friday, 9 p.m. only on FX. There is Kevin Harvick, beginning to stretch it out just a little bit as he laps past David Gilliland. 49 J.J. Yaley, a couple of laps down as Mark Martin makes his way through.
You know, Larry, Childress made some changes on his race teams in the offseason. Right now, Harvick has a new crew chief, he and Shane Wilson. Shane Wilson was with Boyer, and this looks like maybe a good combination, Harvick and Shane Wilson.
It truly does. They had a great run and a great finish at Daytona. Now, just to bring you up to speed, we've been talking about our top 9 drivers did not pit that last caution, and it looks like that we're going to probably see those drivers have to hit pit road here in the next little bit. In fact, Chris Devoda told me that Kevin Harvick, he thinks that maybe he's not full of fuel. He may be coming earlier than any of the other drivers.
And Kyle Busch is coming in now. Green flag pit stop for a driver who's led 52 laps earlier today. Harvick now 1.9 seconds ahead of Mark Martin with Keselowski 3.5 back. Here's Matt.
15 laps ago, Dave Rogers asked Kyle how his left sides were doing. He said he had a slight vibration. They were planning on pitting in about 10 more laps, and then he just keyed the mic and said, I'm coming now, I'm coming now, I'm coming now. Left side tires going on. Fuel's in, a little bit slow up on the front, he's away.
Now, we've been talking about strategy because the driver has to stay there till they fill that tank up with 19.5 gallons of Sunoco race fuel. Everyone will change 4 tires under these green flag stops.
Kurt Busch is in. Again, these are scheduled pit stops. Back to Matt.
One of Kurt Busch's favorite racetracks here at Phoenix. The last time they took on 4 tires, the car was loose, still on the free side for the 51. Air pressure change. They were talking about it, waiting on that fuel, and he's finally away.
Well, there are 2 components to the fuel question. One is, do you have enough fuel? And 2, are these new electric pumps that are part of the engine management fuel injection system getting all that fuel to the engine? Krista.
Matt Kenseth saying his car was shaking a bit. They thought they might have a fuel pressure problem. Their plan was to come in around lap 194. Matt said, okay, I think we're okay, but if he comes in early, that's the issue.
That would be in 11 laps from now.
When your tires start to wear, and here comes Mark Martin on pit road along with Harvick. Down to Krista.
Speaking of fuel mileage, the question for the 29 of Kevin Harvick, how far can we push it? They had planned on coming in right now. Kevin took left side tires back on lap 112. It's a 4-tire change. They said make sure you get it full of fuel. Steve?
Krista, pit stall number 1 for Mark Martin. He said the balance on his car was great, but it has gotten tight as the tires wear out. Mark Martin stops safely into his pit stall. They're going to take a little bit of air out of the right front tire. And again, his car had gotten just a little bit tight on the number 55 of Mark Martin. Krista.
Joey Logano has steadily improved his race car throughout the race. The last stop in, he said, I need to drive in deeper. They've been a lot better every stop they've made it. Joey Logano saying he was chattering the right front a bit as the team goes to work on the car, making a 4-tire change for Joey Logano.
Pablo Montoya stopped and got 4. Here comes Tony Stewart, the reigning Sprint Cup champion, onto pit road along with other cars. Greg Biffle is in as well as we cycle through green flag pit stops. Matt?
And Stewart, who's raced here in 6 different types of racing machines, the outside pole center brings his car to a stop. He was asking where they were as well on the fuel cycle. The 16 of Greg Biffle is in. Stewart still extremely tight on entry to turn 1, and then center on exit down in 3 and 4. Chassis adjustment already completed on the 16 of Biffle. His car just way too loose but getting better. Meanwhile, the 2 car, Brad Keselowski, he's coming down pit road as well. His car calling for a slight air pressure change. They've made a lot of headway on this machine here today.
Dave Blaney is in, and here comes Denny Hamlin, who picked up the race lead. Keselowski getting 4 tires.
Just to go to show you how much brake these drivers are using, the front wheels on Brad Keselowski's car when he came in, they were black with all that brake dust. The fresh wheels are painted pretty yellow.
And Larry, I'd like to stay out as long as I like to see what everybody else is going to do. I'd like to be like one of the last guys on pit road so I can decide what I need to do.
Matt?
And the 11 of Hamlin, chassis adjustment already completed. They tried to stretch as long as they could. 4 tires for Hamlin. Krista?
Jeff Gordon also making him proud on the racetrack. Last stop, he said, I need to free it up in the middle of the turns. Do not do it with the track bar. You don't see any changes being made in the back of the car. The team going to work on the right side, coming around to the left. It's a 4-tire change for Jeff Gordon.
And importantly, Gordon stayed out on the track to lead a lap. The first lap he's led today, picking up a bonus point. Here comes Matt Kenseth to pit road along with Jimmie Johnson and Ryan Newman. Krista.
Well, Matt Kenseth was saying he was so loose at the start of the run, he couldn't keep up with guys like Kevin Harvick. The race car started to come around. Matt coming in for his stop right now. Also 4 tires for the 17. No fuel pressure problem. They were able to make it to their scheduled distance.
And the comments from Jimmie Johnson, he's saying the car is now free. It feels like it has stalled out. He said, I'm really having to protect my entry into the corners. They're going to take 4 tires. Dick?
Carl Edwards started in the 24th spot, worked his way up to the 12th position, and said the car was only half as bad as it was at the start of the race. He's going to come in for an adjustment, tires and fuel.
Travis Kvapil in and out. Here comes Regan Smith and David Stremme onto the pit lane.
Now we have cycled through all of the drivers that made that stop earlier. Dick Berggren, how about Regan Smith?
Well, Regan Smith started in the 3rd position, Larry, and just sort of went back, and the chassis simply has not been good for him. They've had shatters in the car, and everybody seems to be able to get by him on the bottom. Smith cannot hold that bottom lane.
Marcus Ambrose coming in just in front of Smith, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in as well. Krista?
Yeah, it's been an interesting race for Dale Earnhardt Jr. They had that tire rub earlier on their last stop. They were one of the cars that came in on lap 134 for left side tires. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr., who carried the banner for Hendrick Motorsports last week in Daytona, coming down pit lane for his stop.
That leaves 7 drivers on track who stopped earlier, led by Jeff Burton in the number 31 Chevrolet. Martin Truex, Eric Almirola, Bobby Labonte, then Rudeman, McMurray, and Allmendinger.
And the reason these drivers right here, like Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch in the 11-18, they're battling hard because they're 1 lap down to leader Jeff Burton. Remember, if we get a caution, the first driver 1 lap down gets back on the lead lap. Right now, that's Mark Martin in that 55 car trying to get the lap back the hard way by our leader Jeff Burton in 31.
Fresh tires against worn tires in the case of Burton.
Got to be careful when you're in Burton's position because these guys are going to be closing fast. You see Mark gets by. Here comes Keselowski in the 2 car. They'll run over you when they got those fresh tires on.
Bobby Labonte and David Rudeman have also made pit stops as we continue under green in Phoenix. 117 laps to go. Now Martin Truex also has not pitted. He's the 2nd place car to Burton. So now just 4 remain on the racetrack. Burton, Truex, Jamie McMurray, and A.J. Allmendinger. Brendan Gaughan in the pit lane.
And with 116 laps to go for all of the drivers, the ones that's pitted and the ones that's not, it is a 1-stop race to get to the end of lap 312.
Well, we'll see how that strategy plays out for Jeff Burton, the senior driver on the Richard Childress team. We're heard is coming pit side this time and will surrender the lead to Martin Truex. That lead was about 1.3 seconds as Truex flashes past. And it'll be the first time that the New Jersey driver has led today.
He's been fast, Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 all weekend long. Actually got into the wall a little bit at the end of that first practice, but they repaired the car. Matt.
Burton pleased with the 31 machine. He said it's free in the middle of 3 and 4. He just needs a little more rear grip on exit, which was really the most positive part of the car early on. Chassis adjustment, 4 tires. His spotter, Brett Griffin, reminding him, remember, you have issues with your tack. You don't have any lights. Watch your speed.
Thanks, Matt. Now let's talk Truex here, because he's about 0.8 of a second slower than the fastest cars on the racetrack. You stay out and protect that lead, you come in and get some fresh Goodyears.
We've seen it over and over again. You got to get tires on it. You can't sit there and lose this much time, because now when you pit, you're going to come out that much further behind. So I'd be coming to pit road pretty darn quick.
McMurray in 2nd with some crash damage. Likewise, A.J. Allmendinger in 3rd. They are hoping that a caution comes out and they can pit without losing all that track time.
That's the game that they're playing now. There you see A.J. Allmendinger in the 22. He hits pit road. McMurray and Allmendinger, a lot of damage, really nothing to lose gambling there.
Paul Menard also in the pit lane. A lot of crash damage on his car, same incident.
And you know, historically this place, we're under a long green run, and that's kind of how this place goes. We'll probably have a couple of cautions late in the race, so whatever you're going to do, you better get it right now.
Yeah, you may only get one more chance to adjust on that race car.
That's it, buddy.
So with these 2 pitting, that leaves Truex and McMurray out on the racetrack. Then Kevin Harvick, the first of the cars that pitted beginning at about lap 184.
And these long runs like this, Mike, that's when you start to have brake trouble. And you'll hear guys talking about vibration. It's not the tires, it's the brakes. Once the pads wear and the rotors warp a little bit, when you hit the brake, the car wants to vibrate.
How long can Martin Truex hold on before making the pit stop? We'll find out.
Antonio Tuna, featured $5 footlong of March.
207 laps complete. As you have a look at Carl Edwards in 19th place. 1 lap ago, Martin Truex surrendered the lead. Jamie McMurray led a lap, and now he comes pit side, and that will complete the cycle of green flag stops. J.J. Yaley and Mike Bliss also made pit stops while we were away.
We were getting a report that McMurray had ran out of fuel, but fortunately at the end of the backstretch, so it timed out perfect for him. Away it's gone.
I think is that Jimmie Johnson coming on pit road now?
That's actually Kasey Kahne in the 5.
Kane's car, the 5. Gotcha.
Now remember, Jimmie Johnson had to restart 25th after replacing the right rear lug nuts and wheel 3 times and 3 different stops on 1 caution period. Boy, he's climbed the ladder. He's up to 8th.
And remember, Steve Burns talked about him in the mid-race report, and Steve, he's done that without having a caution to aid him.
Yeah, they've told him to be very patient, just pass one at a time, Larry Mack. In fact, Jimmie just reported the adjustments we made on the last stop have really helped the car. It is no longer loose.
And it's showing, Steve, because he is cutting some pretty fast laps right now. And just to follow up a little bit about the conversation of would the car be out of tolerance, you do have a tolerance, you know, as far as measurements go, particularly in the, I think, in the tread width in that area. So, and then if you have a problem during the race, NASCAR will work with you.
Yes, they will.
After inspection.
Johnson moving under Tony Stewart. This is for 7. And here comes Truex on fresh tires against Earnhardt Jr. and Biffle. So he stayed out, made his stop after leading a bunch of laps, and he is now still on the lead lap, 19 seconds back, and trying to break a winless streak that stretches back to June of 2007 at Dover. It's been 168 races since Martin's been to victory lane.
And when you're down on the apron like that making passes, it is absolutely crucial that the spotter lets everybody know he's on the apron and he's coming up. And we got a car smoking here off
Jamie Mack
4.
He's got an engine issue. That's coming out the exhaust pipe, and you could hear it when he came down the front straightaway like he's down a cylinder.
One blew up on the front stretch here, I think.
Yep. Jamie Mack got to lead a lap. And 5 laps after that, looks like he's headed for pit road.
No, Larry, with this new electronic fuel injection, I don't think this could happen, but he ran that car out of fuel. I wonder if that had anything to do with the issue now with the engine.
But you can hear him when he comes down the front stretch. It sounds like it's down a cylinder.
They're saying come in, they're going to black flag it. Just stay low here.
So McMurray gets down off the racetrack. The black flag would mean he would be ordered to the pits. They'll head there as Jimmie Johnson moves past Joey Logano for 7th place.
And man, Jimmie Johnson was below the yellow line, got that nose up along the side of the 20 car, and he just forced his way by. He's down below the yellow line right there, and he just makes enough room. Fortunately, Logano knew he was there and gave him a little room. Very little.
You know, when Jeff Hamlin was up on the spotter stand, he talked about how well the 48 car looked like it was rolling the middle. And it's pretty much right there. You're off the throttle. You hadn't quite picked the throttle. And the car's almost turning on its own. I mean, it's just the car is really turning great.
And it is. Let's move up into the top 5. Now, Kyle Busch led a bunch of laps today, 52 of them so far. And Matty finds himself in 5th place, 10 seconds back.
Well, his car has certainly taken a turn for the worse, Mike. Kyle came on the radio and said that the height is just absolutely way too tight. He cannot hold the bottom at all. He's really struggling compared to what he was earlier. He's also concerned, talking to Dave Rogers, whether it's the car being tight or if the racetrack is starting to make a dramatic change as the day is wearing on. Krista?
Matt, what a roller coaster day for Jeff Gordon. After starting 30th, he fought his way all the way up into the top 10. That's where he runs right now. But he came on the radio a few laps ago and told his team, we have gone too far. The car car is loose in, tight under throttle. Right now, this car is junk.
You know, back to Matt's report, that's not uncharacteristic of a racetrack like this. Now that we've run over 200 laps and this rubber keeps going down on the racetrack, you can see it keeps getting blacker and blacker in the groove, and I'm not hearing as many drivers complain about being loose as in the early part of the race.
Two things have to happen with Kyle Busch in the 18. First of all, he has to not wreck that car, because that's a history he has of getting frustrated and overdriving and getting it in the wall. Second of all, move around, move up, move around on the racetrack, find a groove.
Kevin Harvick is your leader with 94 laps to go in the Subway Fresh Fit 500.
I like it hot. I like it slick. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
All right, bud. It's going to be a dogfight. We know it. And I've been wanting to say this for a while, boss. New leader, 48. You got a problem. Front tire's flat. Get me down. Go one up, one up, one up, one up. Go like hell. Go like hell. Hard, 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 hard.
Welcome back to Phoenix, where the Subway Fresh Fit 500 has 85 laps to go.
Caution's out.
Can you say perfect timing?
Fifth time today that we've waved the yellow flag. This comes at lap 228 with Kevin Harvick's lead of 2.7 seconds over Denny, Hamlin, and Mark Martin. Now erased.
You might say perfect timing. The drivers and their teams are saying not, because I think a lot of them are going to be just outside the fuel window.
That's where I like to be, just on the edge. Maybe I could make it.
Debris in turns 3 and 4 is the reason for this caution. Juan Pablo Montoya gets the free pass on this 5th caution flag of the day, and that will give us 21 cars on the lead lap when we restart.
See, Mike, this is what I was talking about, pit strategy. Now it's a perfect situation. Maybe I can, somebody will try to make it.
And what's really going to be interesting, I think, is the tire strategy here, because this might be your last opportunity to put tires on. We could see a mixed bag. I think a lot of drivers will go with 4. But, Krista, how about our race leader?
Kevin Harvick is in. He said, you guys, when we took left side tires earlier in this race, that was magic. Crew Chief Shane Wilson warned him, we can't make it on 1 can of fuel, but that's what they do. Matt?
And the 11 of Danny Hamlin hits pit road in the 2nd position. He says his car's a little bit on the loose end, but he likes it because it's really helping him rotate to the center of the corner, Steve.
Mark Martin saying his car is just a little bit too tight. They're going to take left side tires and make a small chassis adjustment for Mark Martin.
Thanks, Steve. Mark's last win 82 races ago. And when he won here in 2009 in this race, it broke a 97 race winless streak.
Left side tires it's not a gamble. It's the right call to make. We've seen it work for everybody.
See, Jimmie Johnson went with 2 tires. I think that's the first time they've went with 2 tires today.
And Larry, we've talked about track position. You can't afford to sit there right now. If everybody's going to take 2 and you take 4, you'll never get to the front.
Let's get down to Chris Myers at the Hollywood Hotel.
Thanks, Mike. With Michael Waltrip, in time for an AT&T race break brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network, Rethink Possible. We have a record number of leaders for a Phoenix race. That is 15. Kevin Harvick has led the most laps at 83. It's been a little bit of action. Kasey Kahne, one of the favorites coming in. He lapped 1 on this track in the fall. Had problems early, had to come back in, and then brakes for Casey Mears.
Yeah, how would you like to dive into turn 1 at about 160 miles an hour, not have any brakes? That's what happened to Mears. You could see there coming off 2, Keselowski side, or excuse me, that's Allmendinger sideways. Jamie McMurray in the back over caused the crash.
With Paul Menard, and then earlier Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick racing each other hard. Kyle makes it easy for everybody not to like him. That was a comment from Kevin Harvick back in the media tour when they talked about each other. Their history goes back to 2010, and we've seen that play out right now, or at least going into the caution. Kevin Harvick was your leader. Kyle Busch led the 2nd most laps at 52. Do you still put those 2 as guys to watch towards the finish?
If it's a sprint to the finish, for sure. They're really fast as soon as they throw the green flag. You've watched on every restart and even the start of the race, Mark Martin fell back for a few laps before getting his car under him so he could charge back to the front. If it's a dash to the finish, it'd be pretty cool to see see Harvick and Kyle Busch battling for it.
And the brakes, it's not going to get any better for any driver.
No, your brakes are hot now. They're only going to get hotter. You saw what happens if you have a pedal fade at all. He was on his brakes, but it didn't stop the car, slow the car down enough, and around the car went.
Jeff Hammond is at the smart board here in the Hollywood Hotel to help us understand a little bit more of the brakes picture. That's a little odd, you at the smart board, but we'll figure it out.
Well, I really appreciate that, Chris. Again, but again, well, let's go over here to our Ford Racing Tech car, and we can give you some idea kind of like what's going on in here, because one of the key things, and Larry McReynolds talked about it, Darrell Walters been talking about it, is what can the drivers do as far as taking care of their brakes. One thing, keep your foot off it, but the other thing, we don't want to ever lose sight of the fact is located right here, and this is the brake adjuster. This is where you can adjust the front or rear brake. It's real simple. The driver can dial a little bit more front brake in if he needs it, or he can back that off if that's what the car requires as far as getting in the corner. It's real important that he doesn't over adjust these brakes and all of a sudden fail the front or fail the rear, which we probably saw in Kasey Mears' situation, guys.
All right, thank you, Jeff. AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge. Remember to text FAST to 34763 or go to fastestdriver.com for a chance to win 4 Gs.
Well, you talk about Martin Truex staying out. What happened there? They used that strategy. They didn't think they could make it on fuel to this point, so they just stayed out and grabbed that track position.
All right, let's listen in on some radio communication.
You pit here, everybody's got to pit one more time. You got 20 laps on tires. I'm thinking you stay out here.
Where you stay, bud?
We're going to stay out, There's no way we can make it on fuel, so we're staying out.
That's interesting strategy. You have to stop once more anyway, so why not gamble now instead of later?
Well, yesterday, tires were not, one car finished third and took no tires, so there's all kind of tire strategies going on.
Now, what's interesting, with 21 drivers on the lead lap, we had 3 drivers, Dick, that topped off: Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, and Kurt Busch. Dick?
I'll tell you what, you want to keep an eye on Truex in that 56, because lap after lap before that round of pit stops, he was the quickest car. And indeed, he can't make it all the way to the end, but no changes on his last pit stop, so he's got some stuff for the end of this race.
David Rudiman and A.J. Allmendinger took the wave around to come back onto the lead lap. J.J. Yaley, along with David Reagan, also took the wave around. Getting ready for the restart. Jimmie Johnson, what a climb back into the top 5 he's had. Truex, Harvick, Keselowski, Martin into turn 1.
It's going to be dicey. This is when you get all bottled up. 3 wide, on the apron, in the wall. Look out.
Logano inside of the 48 of Johnson. Whoa, Burton gets squirrely in the 31, but he hung on. He had a rough ride coming up off that apron.
Yeah, Jimmie Johnson had to really give Logano some room right there. That could have been big.
Truex the leader from Harvick, Keselowski, Hamlin, and Martin. Ambrose.
It's go time, Mike. I mean, right now is decisive. You got to get your track position. You got to get up front and stay there.
Logano and Ambrose. Logano takes the spot. 6th place for Marcus Ambrose. Biffle is coming, and there's Johnson in 48. Steve?
As soon as Jimmie Johnson hit pit road, Mike, and left, crew chief Jack Canal said, save gas immediately. This is important. You are 3 laps short right now if it stays green. Save, save, save.
I believe if I'm 3 laps short and I can save just a teeny bit, I don't know if I can do it down here on the apron trying to pass these guys or not, but I think he can make it. I think there are a number of guys that are going to try to make it.
Yeah, he thought twice, Jimmie Johnson in the 48, about going 3 wide, going off into turn 3. He rolled out.
Michael, how about saving gas?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do. Obviously, let off the gas a little bit earlier and be careful how you get back on the gas. But, Darrell, what about cutting the back straightaway there? You cut that little kink enough times, it's going to gain you some ground.
Well, you might save a little gas, but I don't know about saving your race car when they're 3 wide like that.
Michael, what have y'all learned as far as differences in saving fuel with the old 4-barrel carburetor and this electronic fuel injection we're running?
I think they just think the engines are running more efficiently, Larry, so there isn't as much that a driver can do to save gas. But easy on the gas and easy off of it is certainly going to get you a little bit better mileage.
In the mapping of these electronic boxes in the car, you can work on your decel fuel cutoff. In other words, when you're off the gas, you can work on that, and you never were able to do that before. We got engines now that talk to us, and they can talk to the engine tuner and tell it what it needs.
Here comes Hamlin for third, inside of Keselowski, turn 2.
Not during the race now. That's a tuning thing, not during the race.
Behind them, inching in, well behind them. Now there's the 31 of Burton and the 48 of Jimmie Johnson battling, but Mark Martin and Joey Logano are catching up the third place battle. Then along comes Newman, Smith, Labonte in the picture. Third place here. And Hamlin having trouble completing the pass on Keselowski's deuce. There, they keep fooling around. They're going to have 2 more right with them.
Oh, yeah, this is going to get exciting up near the front. And I think some of these guys are saying, look, we can't make it race hard. There's a few other guys that are saying, we can make it if you save a little fuel. So we got a couple of little deals going on right here, right now.
You know, not too far behind these 2 drivers racing this hard, Hamlin, Keselowski, a driver that we have not talked about all day long. He started back in 24th position, the man that tied Tony Stewart in points last year but lost the tiebreaker. Carl Edwards in that 99 car has cracked the top 10. He's up in 9th.
Running 4.5 seconds off the lead, which Martin Truex Jr. is now stretching out a bit over Kevin Harvick.
Now, they were telling him, I was getting a report, to save fuel. He also is one of the drivers that went with just 2 tires on that last stop.
71 laps to go in the desert. Martin Truex Jr., your leader. Kevin Harvick second. You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
They say that with great power comes great responsibility. Well, when you own a Durango, you'll have tons of power, enough to tow up to 7,400 pounds. So owning a Durango means you now have the responsibility to go dirt biking, ATVing, motorcycling, boating, jet skiing, and show a Ford Explorer a thing or two about what it means to have best-in-class towing. The SUV is back.
Store your paint colors, not your paint cans. One of the many ways My Lowe's revolutionizes managing your entire home. Register your home at Lowe's.com. Lowe's, never stop improving.
Energy when I gotta get stuff done.
.67 laps to go in the Subway Fresh Fit 500, and Martin Truex sees his rearview mirror beginning to fill up with Kevin Harvick, who has cut the gap down to 0.7 of a second and closing. Denny Hamlin 1.9 back, Brad Keselowski 2.6, and Mark Martin the top 5. Uh-oh, a lot of smoke out of David Rudiman's car.
That looks pretty serious.
Real heavy. Caution's out. Caution's out.
Lap 247. Caution waves for Rudiman.
Now what are you going to do?
Well, I know what I'm going to do if I'm Martin Truex and his race team. I'm going to get the pit road. I know I can make it from here now.
Some of these guys that were thinking they could maybe possibly make it, this caution ought to give them some insurance.
I feel like 3 drivers that will stay out were the 3 drivers that topped off there with 80 to go. Jeff Gordon, Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch. I'd be willing to bet those 3 drivers will stay out.
Pit road's open. Let's see who the takers are this time around. Bobby Labonte gets the free pass. And so we'll restart with 24 on the lead lap. And Tony Stewart is not maintaining race pace.
No, he's coasting.
All right, Truex, Mark Martin. Logano is in, Jeff Burton, Kyle Busch. A bunch of the leaders have come to pit road. Dick?
Unclear as to what Martin Truex is going to do. They had not decided until this very moment what they were going to do with tire strategy. 2 tires or 4 tires? The answer is 4. Truex now will be able to make it all the way to the end. Matt.
And the issue for Tony Stewart, he shut his engine off like you used to traditionally with the carbureted engines to try to save fuel. It would not refire. That's what he's telling the team.
He was 13th at the time.
Well, there's a refire procedure that you have to go through. You got to turn everything off and then start all over again. It's like resetting your computer.
Now he will stay on the lead lap if he gets a push to pit road, and see if they can get him refired. Let's go back to the Martin Truex pit stop. Self-venting cans and a little bit more splash than go right there.
Yeah, he's slipping and sliding right there. Can't get any traction.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't have to be completely full right there because we know they can go about 80 laps on fuel, and that was 60-something to go.
And now Tony Stewart has gone a lap down as they push him onto pit road during this caution for smoke from the back of David Rudemann's car.
I mean, Darrell, there's just so many differences in how you crank a car with this electronic fuel injection versus a carburetor. You don't pat the throttle, it does no good. There's just so many things.
And part of it is a learning experience. Last week at Daytona, you're wide open all the time. Here, part throttle and on and off the gas, and now we got this.
Working the 6th caution of the race with 63 laps to go. Tony Stewart makes it to a stop in his pit.
I think everybody's in the same boat, Larry. They would run around and do something, but I don't think they really know what to do.
And you can see a lot of attention being paid to the top.
The engine is cranking, but will not fire.
A lot of attention being paid right there because that's where that ECU box that controls the electronic fuel injection. You can see one of the mechanics working in that area.
Give it a little bit of gas right here.
Well, there's a specific shutdown and restart procedure to re-energize that box and the fuel pumps.
And if they can't get it cranked, they may have to go behind the wall and hook the computer to it to try to diagnose exactly what's going on.
All right, we listened in to Tony Stewart and team as they try to diagnose this.
Well, I shut it off to save fuel, and I turned it back on, and it won't fire now. I've cycled the whole power off and on. I can't get it to do anything. Both batteries, switch batteries.
Work continues as Stewart's car remains motionless on pit road, 2 laps down.
And it's frustrating because you really don't know what to do.
No. It's all new to these teams. Electronic engine management. Time now for our 5-hour energy. Big move of the race. Kevin Harvick harassed Kyle Busch lap after lap after lap until this. Going off in the corner, Busch locks up the brake, and Harvick gets the lead. Kevin Harvick is our race leader under caution from Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Marcus Ambrose now up to 4th, and Greg Biffle. Chris?
Yeah, Mike, really the race 3 stages. Kevin Harvick dominating the first portion. Jimmie Johnson in the middle. We saw Kyle Busch, and now it's been a scramble with Harvick back out in front after Martin Truex. We saw the problems with Tony Stewart. Michael, how do you relate that to the car we might drive on our own?
It's equivalent to the check engine light coming on, Chris. I never know what the heck that means. Sometimes my car won't go when it's on, though, and that's what these teams are faced with. This EFI, electronic fuel injection, is all new to them, so when something goes wrong, you just turn batteries off and switch things around and see if it'll go again.
We saw with Martin Truex Jr., Michael Waltrip racing, the fuel being splashed around. Let's check on fuel strategy, and we'll start with Chris Devoda.
Chris, the driver working hard in the car, Kevin Harvick, but the fingers are flying atop the pit box. Shane Wilson, the crew chief, and the engineers, because they don't know if they can make it the distance. Before this caution came out, they thought they were 9 laps short. They didn't come in because they couldn't afford the track position. Shane Wilson is hoping his driver could save that much. Dick.
Marcus Ambrose, car number 9, short on fuel. They're going to need another pit stop. Matt.
Yeah. And the 11 of Denny Hamlin, basically Darian Grubb told him, what I need you to do is to basically give me a pause on the front stretch and back stretch every time to try to save fuel. They feel like they're very close, Steve.
And Matt, Jimmie Johnson battling back from that loose wheel on lap 132, saying the car is really coming to me. Chad Knaus's message is the same thing: save, save, save.
My understanding is you can do all those things. That's what we used to do. My understanding is with the mapping in that box, the engine only uses what fuel it needs. You have a cutoff system in the box. It tells the engine it doesn't need fuel. It's all on throttle position. So I think all that stuff they're going through now is really a waste of time.
But I do think off the throttle, still, even with the fuel injection, is going to save you some fuel.
It might.
Tony Stewart back in the race, 2 laps down. 59 to go when we get the green flag. Harvick and Hamlin on the front row. Keselowski with Ambrose, Biffle and Edwards, Johnson and Newman, Regan Smith and Jeff Gordon, the top 10. Here we go.
It's going to get a little bit crazy right over here.
Advantage Hamlin.
You know, a driver that has slipped here in the top 5, who had a ill handling race car when this race started. He wiggled a little bit right there, Greg Biffle in that 16 car, but now he's got pressure from Marcus Ambrose in the 9. Dick Berggren talked about Marcus, possibly another pit stop to get to the end.
Watch that 9 car, or 99 car right there, that yellow car. He has really found his legs too, Larry, and he's up there now.
Edwards Subway Ford on the march, 6th place. Right behind Ambrose, who wiggles just a bit. And for Marcus Ambrose and all his followers in the Aussie V8 Supercar Series, Ford at Clipsal, 1-2 today. Holden won yesterday in the season opener. Ryan Newman, what a job he's done in a backup car as he battles side by side with Edwards into turn 3 for 6th place.
There he goes.
And around he goes.
He and Carl got together.
Yellow is out. Yellow is out.
Just slipped up the hill a little bit. Carl got in under him.
10 more.
What does that caution flag do for our strategy?
Well, every caution lap you run helps because it's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 caution laps to 1 green flag lap. So all these drivers that are marginal, they love every caution lap they can get right here.
This is a great learning experience for fuel injection and the EFI and that brain in the car. These guys are going to learn so much about how to increase their gas mileage, how to milk it right here today.
Ryan Newman was 6th on the outside of Carl Edwards when they made contact at turn 4.
Jimmie Johnson in that 48, he just went by both of them.
And here's a look from the blimp, top of your screen, entering turn 3.
Yeah, just side by side. They're hard to stay down on the bottom. Carl gets a little wiggle, and then the 39 car, Newman on the outside, he made a little contact, and around he went.
Jimmie Johnson and Regan Smith scooted through on the inside.
One of the hardest things to do on any racetrack we go to is go in a corner side by side with another car, because this is what happens so many times. You know,
Mike, Ryan Newman had 4 consecutive top 5 finishes here at Phoenix coming into this race. Gonna be tough to keep that streak going.
Newman to the pits along with Bobby Labonte, who was the last car on the lead lap.
See any damage on the right front fender of Carl? It looks it's wrinkled a little bit.
And Jeff Hammond had quite a viewpoint on that one.
Yes, I did, Mike. We just got here just outside of turn 4, watching the cars come through on the restart, and everybody's just pushing and shoving, and all of a sudden we saw the 39 car go around, covered in tire smoke. Everybody here watching the race, and this part of the racetrack, because it's getting so slick, we talked about it all day long, everything is
what's happening here. You see the guys, you hear them picking the throttle up and really starting to get really aggressive late in the race. It's right now, it's go time. You can really feel it here off of turn 4.
I tell you something else. I don't like that fender on that 99 car either, Jeff. That thing is all wrinkled up and down on the tire.
There's Jeff Hammond making his arrival, just as Ryan Newman made his arrival with the turn 4 wall.
I'm like you, Darrell. On the 99 cars, we see Ryan Newman back on pit road, still on the lead lap. Carl Edwards' right front fender may not be rubbing now, but when it starts traveling up the speed, may be an issue there.
Travis Kvapil gets the free pass on this, the 7th caution flag of the day. Next week, NASCAR on Fox heads for Vegas.
I say take a chance and see what happens. Listen, we're in Las Vegas, man. You got to roll the dice. You got to gamble a little bit. I like it.
Roll the dice. All right.
Ready to race in the Nevada desert. Traffic jam in Las Vegas and not the one down on the strip.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing Vegas style, boys.
Kobalt Tools 400 next Sunday with NASCAR on Fox. Michael Waltrip.
Is scrambling. He was in the back. He had the fastest car, you might think, Chris, because he's made his way all the way up toward the top 5. He's pushing it hard. What happens? He makes a mistake, and Ryan Newman pays for that mistake. But I'm telling you, over the next 50 laps or so, you're going to see more and more pushing it hard, guys.
Oh yeah, you gotta let it all hang out now, baby. This is showtime.
You know, with 53 laps to go and 23 drivers on the lead lap, you pretty much have about made your bed as far as not coming back to pit road.
Now, Ryan Newman stayed on the lead lap, the last of 23 cars. Denny Hamlin is our leader. 25 lead changes today. We just finished up the 7th caution flag. And that pace car is going to scoot off to pit road. Hamlin and Keselowski. Toyota and Dodge leading the Chevy of Harvick and the Ford of Greg Biffle. 52 laps to go when they come to the line. We're back under green. Keselowski's led 3 laps so far today. He could be about to lead his 4th.
Boy, he overdrove that corner though, all the way almost up against the wall.
Hamlin.
Dirty tires, got in there too hot. Probably a little stake dry over there maybe from the accident, or at least dirt on the track.
Keselowski's best finish here, 15th in this race last year. And he goes from the lead back to 6th. Here's how it happened.
Oh, you can just see how much harder he drove in the corner than Denny Hamlin in 11 did. You saw that gap open a little bit. Just overdrove it a tad.
So Hamlin is the leader. Biffle is second, trying to hold off Harvick. Then Ambrose settles into 4th ahead of Johnson.
We got a ways to go, but this would be such great redemption for that 11 car, because I feel like here 2 years ago, that's what this racetrack bit them on fuel mileage, cost him a win, and he eventually lost the championship.
And Krista, here comes Harvick. He's up into 2nd place.
And the big question, Mike, how much did he save? Crew Chief Shane Wilson came on the radio and said, we needed both of those cautions. We are only 1 lap to the good, and it's a good thing because Kevin can't say now he's in a dogfight. He has to race.
And I feel that's the case with all these drivers. It was marginal. The number of cautions we've run should be pretty good now.
Yeah, because when they're talking 9 laps, I mean, that's 2 gallons of fuel, Larry. That's a lot to ask.
Carl Edwards alongside the 78 of Regan Smith. Harvick second. And NASCAR fans voted at sprint.com/speed on the driver they want us to go in car with. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the top choice, so let's ride along on board and listen in. Dale Jr. on the lead lap, running in 20th, getting limited access. through the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app on your Android-powered device, only on the Sprint network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Steve Burns.
Mike, good news for Jimmie Johnson. Chad Canals, the crew chief, just said you are okay on fuel the rest of the way. Jimmie relayed saying the car is a little bit loose on the restart, but it is coming to me.
Yeah, I saw him sideways a couple of laps there in a row, but all of a sudden the car tightened up like he said, and now he's trying hard to get by Greg Biffle in the 16th.
And just remember, 120 laps ago, he was on pit road 2 or 3 times under caution with possibly lug stud issues from a loose wheel.
Denny Hamlin dominated here in November of 2010, leading 190 laps, but wound up 12th.
That's it, Kyle. Let's go home. All right, guys, let's get out of here.
Available 268 horsepower and intuitive mobile technology. Introducing the reinvented 2012 Camry from Toyota.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. I'm not sure exactly what happened here last night. I was out helping people save money on their car insurance.
Two more. You doing it. You doing. Are they doing great? Hi. Come swing with me. Keep going, Richard. Keep sweating.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Yes, I can. Doubt better leave. I'm running with this plan. Pull me, grab me, traps in the bucket, can't have me. I'll be the president one day. Oh, you like that gossip? Like you the one drinking what gossip.com. I got a word for your tongue. How many Rolling Stones you want? Yeah, I got a brand new spirit speaking and it's done. Woke up on the side of the bed like I won. Talk like the winner, my chest to that sun. G5 to the US to Taiwan. Now who can say that? I wanna play back. I got a feeling it's a rap. ASAP.
41 laps to go, and all that time we were side by side. Jimmie Johnson and Brad Keselowski were side by side and still are. Here they come into frame in the back stretch, fighting.
Yeah, we were watching Jimmie Johnson and Greg Biffle fight. Biffle got clear of Jimmie, and then here came Keselowski into 2 with Kyle Busch lurking there waiting to see what's going to happen.
And even though Kyle Busch didn't change but 2 tires, on one of those sides of his race car, he has 20 lap fresher tires than those drivers he's racing right now. And that could be a big difference, especially if they went with left sides that last time.
I think Kevin Harvick, once he got the okay that he's going to probably be all right on fuel, I think he'll turn the wick up a little bit here when it comes time.
Hamlin the leader by 0.8 of a second. Here's Kevin Harvick in second. He's led a lot of laps today. Boy, that 5th place battle just won't quit. Keselowski, Johnson, and Kyle Busch.
Listen to these lap times of the first 4 cars. 27-23, 27-23, 27-24, 27-26. Those first 4 cars.
Now it sorts out for a little bit. Keselowski has cleared Johnson, but that opens the door for Kyle Busch on the inside.
Did just get the information when Kyle Busch did come to pit road on lap 247, 2 left side tires for his car.
Johnson tries it again.
Well, Jimmie Johnson has a fast car when he has the whole racetrack to work with. But when he gets pinched down on the bottom and he can't let the car drift up off the corner, he can't make the pass.
The first Ford in the race and having a great race. Marcus Ambrose has won Sprint Cup victory. Came on the road course. But with that backstretch the way it configured, this race is a little like a road course, Dick. That's where he is a specialist. And despite fighting a loose race car early, he's positioned very well in third here.
Yeah, and he's run well all day long, Mike. This would be the first ever oval track win that he has had in big league NASCAR. Most importantly, Todd Parrott, his crew chief, just told me that Ambrose has enough gas to make it to the end.
And Dick reported earlier that they were a little marginal, but I think he's one of those drivers that's benefited from all these number of caution laps that we've had since he pitted.
One win on the road course, 2 third-place finishes on ovals at Dover and at Bristol. Mark Martin has tried for 15 laps to get past Joey Logano and finally does to move up to 13th. And Johnson's back after Keselowski one more time for 5th.
Jimmie's been here a couple of times. He was there with Greg Biffle lap after lap. Couldn't make it. Keselowski's going to keep him pinned down.
This all happened 6.5 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, it's like Brad Keselowski in the 2 gets a good run off the corner, but he was pinched up that time. Darrell didn't get quite the run, but he's going to fight back going off into 3.
Jimmie's just about going to have to force him up the hill and get him up in that loose stuff to get by him, because Jimmie just cannot make that pass on the bottom. Keselowski's got the momentum around the outside, that high line. You get a lot of straightaway speed, you get off the corner really well. Keeps that guy on the inside, pinched down, can't make it.
And here comes Kyle to the bottom, as Jimmie had to kind of lock it up going into the corner.
That's one of the frustrating things about this joint right here. You can have a fast car and you can't do anything with it.
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch in that 18 had been laying back there feeling like that he was quicker than those 2 drivers. Took advantage of it there on Jimmie Johnson a second ago.
Well, it looked from the onboard as if Jimmie might have got into the back of Brad getting into the corner, and that opened the door for the 18.
I don't know if he did or not, but I know he'd like to.
Johnson coming back on Kyle Busch.
It's just there's so much more speed in that high line. You get off the corner there, you see like the 18 car does with a little more straightaway speed. It's just almost impossible to make a pass.
Let's check back up front where Denny Hamlin, driving a Toyota for Coach Joe Gibbs, has a 1-second lead on Kevin Harvick.
I think these guys right here, if I know Denny Hamlin pretty well, he's looking in his mirror. He's trying to maintain that gap. That's all he's trying to do, mind the gap.
Let's check in the leaders pit, Matt.
And Mike, Darian Grubb just told him about 5 laps ago. Continue to save me about 1 second off the throttle per straightaway. Gentle on, gentle off. Just keep saving me fuel. Same thing for Greg Biffle, back and forth. They're telling him, back off early, save us fuel.
And when you've got a second lead, Mike, I think it's a little easier to do that.
Carl Edwards, Regan Smith 10th and 11th, with Jeff Gordon in 12th.
We saw Denny Hamlin there, guys, and Denny is really aggressive here in Phoenix. But remember back to Daytona, he was the only one going on the outside, making moves, pushing other cars. Really aggressive from the green flag at Daytona. It continues here at Phoenix. He feels like this race 2 years ago could have cost him a championship. He wants to redeem himself today. Darrell, his attitude, we golfed together, and he can't beat me at golf. But, man, he doesn't think anybody can beat him on the racetrack.
No, he and his new crew chief, Darian Grubb, I like those personalities. They match up. Darian's a smart guy, and Denny will listen to him, and they're getting some really good results.
How about Regan Smith in the 78, upper right of your screen, trying to battle Jeff Gordon for 11th place. He led a few laps, ran up the top 5 early. And your pole sitter Mark Martin is part of that battle.
Yeah, Regan Smith in the 78, he's been slipping back a little bit over the last few laps. It wasn't but about 10 laps ago he was running up at about the 8th position.
But I mentioned this earlier, and I want to bring it up again. The D-cell fuel cutoff, that's something that's in the mapping. Uh-oh, what happened to the 31?
He pulled down below the yellow line.
He's got a problem.
And is off the pace. Jeff Burton off pace. Is he going to try to run it out or head to pit road? He's staying on the racetrack.
Nothing like fuel pressure, volts or anything, right, Jeff? No, we're all good there.
He was in 8th place.
All right, I think back to Jamie McMurray and the one that had that engine issue a number of laps ago. The engines for Jeff Burton, Jamie McMurray, they come from the same engine company, Earnhardt Childress Racing engines. And it almost sounds like the same symptoms. We're not seeing the smoke out of Burton's car, though.
All right, we'll stay side by side with 25 laps to go, and Denny Hamlin nursing a 0.7 of a second lead over Kevin Harvick.
Last season was great, but I want more.
More, Carl! More! More, Edwards! More! Is someone on me? More!
Carl Edwards is fueling another run for the championship with more protein-packed Subway subs and delicious breakfast sandwiches.
Subway, official training restaurant of Carl Edwards and athletes everywhere.
And Jay Glazer.
Agents, I'd like you to meet Kasey Kane.
Hey, nice fire suits.
Custom tailored.
Just like the personalized coverage you can get by working with a farmer's agent. Oh, no. No, no.
Oh, fire suit.
Oh, hey, Kate.
Are you done?
We are insurance.
We are farmers. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum.
Too much information. There's no such thing in NASCAR. With the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app, you get live in-car audio, real-time stats, even driver bios. And with Sprint's unlimited data, you can find out everything about me. Like my secret obsession with karaoke.
Here I go again on my own. Going down the
There's no such thing as TMI when you have NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and truly unlimited data, only from Sprint.
Kevin Harvick has led the most laps here in Phoenix, but Denny Hamlin leads right now with just 21 to go. Remember Harvick's nickname, the closer. We've had a record, a Phoenix record, 15 different leaders in this race. And the irony, when Tony Stewart, the Sprint Cup champion, had problems, his championship crew chief, Darian Grubb, who was there before, helped Denny Hamlin take the lead, Michael Waltrip. He has that now at a track that, as Darrell Waltrip told us on the pre-race show, is a gambling track.
And the cars that are up front, Chris, they did just that. They gambled on that last caution. They didn't come to pit road, even though they knew they didn't have enough gas. They counted on some additional caution laps so that they could make it to the finish. A gamble by Denny Hamlin. Will it pay off, DW?
Mike, let me ask you something, Michael. Do you see any fire coming out the tailpipes today?
None at all.
And you know why? Because all you got to do to save fuel with this electronic fuel injection is get your foot off the gas, and it'll automatically cut the fuel to the engine off. So all these guys have got to, they're going through a learning process today, and they're figuring that out right here this afternoon. But that's why you don't see all the flames out the tailpipe. We're not burning excessive fuel.
And Marcus Ambrose is slow in the back straightaway. His great third-place run is going to come undone.
Well, it's a hot afternoon here in the desert, and if you're going to have problems, you're going to have them late here in the race.
Jeff Burton has taken his car to pit road.
Engine, I hear it go by, and it just heard it. You can see it.
18 laps from the finish line. Smoke billows. Yeah, we're engine number 9.
We're seeing the same.
out there.
I don't think so, buddy.
Now, we were seeing the same thing there that we saw on McMurray's engine in the 1, smoke coming out the right side exhaust pipes.
Saw the 4th place battle ongoing. Jimmie Johnson gets past Brad Keselowski for 4th.
He finally got by him that time. He Brad slid up the hill high enough that Jimmie Johnson, 48, was able to get by.
Bad news for Johnson. With 17 laps to go, he is still 9 seconds behind the leader. Ambrose has come to pit road. That's a tough break. Hamlin's lead shrinking slightly from 7 to 6/10 of a second. Kevin Harvick is coming.
Yeah, Harvick ran a 10th quicker that time, Darrell.
Yeah, I think I've really watched Harvick, and I'm not so sure he's not playing possum right now. I'm not so sure he's not going to wait till about 8-10 laps to go and really put the pressure on Denny Hamlin.
We've talked for 2 weeks about these new driver crew chief pairings and the need to build trust and build confidence. That won't be a problem for Harvick because Shane Wilson was Harvick's crew chief when he won the Nationwide Championship in 2006. So they have a lot of history together, including 13 checkered flags. There's your race leader, Denny Hamlin, and his new crew chief, Darian Grubb. Matt?
Mike, Denny told me that this really would be the start of the season, just trying to learn the chemistry and the nuances between himself and Darian Grubb. He also said coming into Phoenix, it's like a huge load off his shoulders. Typically, he'll come into Phoenix after a rough Daytona, but a top 5 there. He sits solidly in the points. They don't have to dig themselves out of a huge hole. It could be a big day if they could pull off a win here at PIR.
We're watching Denny Hamlin on the left of your screen with Kevin Harvick closing. Always think about Dale Earnhardt. He was the intimidator, and he loved to intimidate. What do we call the 29 guy?
The closer.
So, and some guys just like to live up to the reputation. And right now, I'm not so sure that our friend there, Mr. Harvick's not trying to live up to his reputation.
The gap, though, is growing slightly. It was 0.6. Now it's 0.9 of a second. Marcus Ambrose takes his car to the garage, joining Jeff Burton with late race engine trouble. 13 laps to go.
And Mike, with now 12 to go, Denny Hamlin has a decent, clean racetrack in front of him. There's a lot of drivers up there, but I don't think it's drivers that'll push the envelope because they are much more than them on the lead lap or more than 1 lap down.
Greg Biffle's Ford is now the 3rd place car, 6 seconds back. Jimmie Johnson 9 seconds in arrears. You will see the gap at the top of your screen, and you see it growing just slightly between 7 and 9/10 of a second. Hamlin to Harvick.
And again, I mean, I know that Harvick's trying to close. That's his nickname. But also that guy in that 11 car, I'm not so sure he's not playing a little cat and mouse too, keeping that gap.
Denny Hamlin, as Michael told you, loves to golf. In fact, he's relocated his winter home to here in the Phoenix Scottsdale area so he can get plenty of time out on the course.
Boy, I just saw that 29 car Harvick come off turn 4. He's after it. The back hung out. He's digging, man.
Well, he knows he has to because the starter just put 10 fingers in the air, 10 to go.
I think they're going to run up on some cars that could have an effect on this whole outcome right here. There's a group of cars right in front of these fellas right here that they're going to run up on that they got to get through.
And they are leaving Greg Biffle behind. Biffle now 7.5 back. Jimmie Johnson 9, and Brad Keselowski 10.5. Kyle Busch 11 seconds back. Martin Truex going to get a good finish out of this. That strategy worked out pretty well for Truex. He's 7th. Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon, Regan Smith, the top 10.
Kind of nice. Everybody's got a piece of the top 5, Mike.
A Toyota leads a Chevrolet, a Ford, a Chevy, and a Dodge in the top 5.
Now,
all 4 makes represented.
As we're 8 laps to go, I don't think we can hide the fact that there's still some drivers that may be concerned about fuel. I know one driver I got a report. He's back in 8th position, Carl Edwards in that 99 car. They're telling me that he's still a little concerned about fuel.
19 cars on the lead lap. And now traffic comes into play.
Big close right there.
And Krista reports that Harvick, they don't have fuel gauges in these cars. They do their computations in the pits. But still, Kevin may need to save a little fuel. They work past Brendan Gaughan in the 33 and now pull up on Dave Blaney.
But Darrell, when you're Kevin Harvick and you can see Denny Hamlin in that 11 in front of you, I think with 6 to go, forget saving fuel.
You're not saving anything right now. You got it matted, baby. If it runs out, it runs out.
Kyle Busch in 6th and Martin Truex in 7th. Stopped 20 laps later than anybody else in the top 10. Will this race fall into their hands in these final 6 laps?
But there's one thing about these cars. We saw it last year with Dale Jr. We've seen it with others. When they're out of fuel, they quit. They don't get that spurt and popping. They just quit.
5 miles to go. You need about 1 gallon of that Sunoco Green E15 to make it to the flag.
Yeah, these drivers get about 4.2, 4.3 miles to the gallon.
And Harvick is closing. Imagine that. Half a second.
He drives off in the corner 10 times further than Denny Hamlin does, but Denny is better off the corner.
A.J. Allmendinger just ahead of them, 19th, last car on the lead lap.
You can see Kevin Harvick.
We're down, man. You got him. You get him.
He's starting to move that car around a little bit. He tried a little different arc through 1 and 2 that last
Yeah,
night.
he tried to get the car. He ran a little bit higher, hoping there'd be a little speed up there. I don't believe it really is. Right now, it's just staying pretty much the same gap.
Harvick's running out of time. 4 laps to go. He is 44/100ths of a second behind Hamlin, who works under Allmendinger.
Oh, Allmendinger is definitely slowing down Hamlin a little bit. That's going to allow Harvick to gain some down that back right here.
Harvick picks up a 10th.
He got him. He gained a bunch right there.
He's coming, 2 to go here. Let's get him.
1 car length, and the closer is there, knocking on the door.
I'll tell you, if he doesn't run out of gas.
2 to go. You get him. Come on, man. Up on that wheel.
I love it. Get up on that wheel.
And look at Kevin Harvick. Drove that thing down in there. It's almost like he's found a little something down there in 1 and 2.
Loses it off of 2. Just lost. Uh-oh. He's out of gas. He's out of gas.
He may be out.
He's out of fuel.
We knew it was going to be close. Denny Hamlin will get the white flag this time.
Carl Edwards is out of gas. White flag for Hamlin. Can he make it 1 more mile?
One lap short for the 29. Watch for others.
But he run all the way back.
78's out over on the back over there.
Harvick still second, 3 seconds back. Hamlin with a 3-second lead and 8 seconds up on Greg Biffle.
Hamlin's home free. And
for his 18th career win, Denny Hamlin delivers. Checkered flag in Phoenix.
Harvick's going to hang on for second. How about that?
Harvick 5.8 back. He makes it to the line just ahead of Greg Biffle, Jimmie Johnson, and Brad Keselowski. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex 6th and 7th. Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, and Joey Logano the top 10.
Woo. That's a nail biter, boys.
Well, the closer got to the door and it would not open.
I tell you, it's probably a good thing I ran out of fuel for Denny Hamlin's sake. Look at this. Good team meeting right there.
And how about champion crew chief of 2011, Darian Grubb, picking up just about where he left off at the end of last season with Tony Stewart.
Yes, sir.
Headed for the winner's circle.
So happy for Darian Grubb. Yes, they didn't even know if they were going to make the chase. He was told halfway through the chase, you will not be returning to Stewart-Haas. Still kept his head down and won those 5 races and won the championship.
Joe Gibbs got him a jewel right there, buddy.
Hamlin led 3 times for 61 laps, including the final 59 circuits.
Out of gas.
Yeah, he could be out of gas.
Out of gas. Can I get a push to the station, please?
There's a truck behind you here, Denny.
Brad Keselowski in the 2 that finished 4th, he was out of fuel. Martin Truex Jr. had to push him to pit road. I don't think this crew will mind pushing this 11 car, though.
No, he reset his. He reset his. He's good to go.
And that takes us back to what happened to Tony Stewart. When he shut his car off, we are told that he tripped the relay on the electronic engine management system, and that requires a reset process. He did get the car running again, wound up 2 laps down, but here is the driver that's headed for victory lane.
And Mike, I think that Denny Hamlin has had his hit the reset button too. This guy's going to be hard to deal with.
All 3 Joe Gibbs Toyotas finished in the top 10 today. Wow, what a finish. More to come with NASCAR on Fox right after this.